Born ready.
All right. Okay. Take it away, John. Third night of the Budget Select Board meetings.
Sure is. So we'll jump right into it.
John, can I make a comment?
Oh, hey, why not? Two in a row, Bill. Fire away.
Now that I went home after the last meeting
Yes,
and went online and looked up the Director of Public Services,
yeah.
I'd like to revisit sometime tonight this whole issue of this new position.
Well, and we owe a one-pager and as well as some further information on that. Can we do that at the next meeting on Monday?
I'm not going to be here. I'm going
Okay.
to be hopefully Zooming with Jeff, so
Okay.
is there a chance that I could give my comments or tonight?
I'll leave it to
I mean, the only
chairs.
hesitation I have is we owe you information on that, and it would be maybe a more informed.
I think
Your
mine will
com-
be overall type
Okay.
comments. I have made notes, so I
That's
should
fine,
be a
that's
little
fine.
quickly on this. So on this position of Director of Public Services, we want a highly skilled, licensed, proactive position which serves as the chief administrator and professional engineer responsible for the design, planning, operation, and maintenance of the town's entire public infrastructure. And when you get into more of the details, it talks about establish and maintain effective working relationships with department, town staff, property owners, contractors, regulatory agencies, and other members of the public. Considerable knowledge and demonstrated ability to apply the modern principles and practices of civil engineering and construction, particularly as it pertains to municipal infrastructure, including pavement systems, stormwater management, storm sewer collection, treatment, as well as buildings and facilities. Recruit, train, and supervise subordinate personnel effectively. Sounds to me like we want to hire a superhuman to do this work. So a couple of comments on the areas that you see the responsibilities for here. I know somebody said in the select board that we'll save money on the pavement and so forth if we have this engineer. I'm just thinking about the interview that we had with Mike, who seems to me to be quite competent at what he's doing. And we talked about how the roads have become better here in the last couple of years because we're constructing them better. So instead of having this new town engineer have to get involved in that, if we need expertise, why don't we get a expert in paving and culverts and so forth, and maybe sit down with Mike every fall before he plans his next year's, activities, and go through and talk about what he thinks you should do, and have Mike in agreement and so forth with this expert. Maybe cost, $5,000-$10,000 to have somebody each year go through and make sure Mike is comfortable with what he's doing, and he's getting some expert information at the same time. The new position also talks about knowledge in the stormwater management system and the storm sewer collection. And clearly the Rockport residents here a year or so ago decided they did not want to have a separate sewer system for the town of Rockport. So I think we're now into our second year in the contract with Camden.
Storm sewer?
Well, wastewater,
Storm sewer is different.
right, but this is wastewater also. You want him to handle, right?
Yes.
Same thing?
But
So
that's
I think
different
we're in
than
the
storm.
second year. I don't know if any activity is taking place yet on pointing anybody to really get into what are we going to do after this 5-year contract is done. So with all the work that's been done and the people we have in this town, I'm looking at the guy to my left here who spent countless hours on this subject. Can't we get started now by forming a group, to look at what our options are as far as the wastewater? If we hire this new engineer, we're still a year or more away from him really digging his heels into whatever this job would be. And have that group that's formed here in Rockport, if they need a consultant or something, then hire the consultant to help them. But come up with a plan now, not wait till we have a new town engineer with everything else you're asking him to do. So, who knows? We might have a new sewer district and we might not even need an engineer if he's running the whole process for us. So, we also talked about we need the town engineer to manage the implementation of this $2 million grant that we have for the harbor. Why wouldn't we want to, again, use an expert or consultant, just like we've done with the new Rockport Village Playground, whatever we're calling it, over the old RES site and so forth, not have somebody come in with a plan and show us how we can implement it without, again, having another permanent again, employee of the town to have to go through and do that particular process. So I am real reluctant to add number 44, employee to the town's payroll. And I just think that you could do this by picking these things apart and hiring people temporarily to get the job done. Because we know, we're probably talking 130,000 plus benefits, you're probably gonna be $200,000. We know what that number's gonna be next year and the year after and the year after. It's just gonna be one more inflation factor on the budget that we're gonna have to, deal with in the next year. So those are my comments. I just think that whole issue of that management position really needs to be thought through. That's all I have.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Okay. Well, and we'll have more on that with the one-page sort of layout that we talked about, and then hopefully there'll be obviously time to talk about all of these
Yeah, I think
changes.
that, we
too.
understand that'll be
Right.
more of a topic of discussion, because
Yeah.
that's a change in how we've done things.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so thank you, Bill.
Yep.
We appreciate that. And though you'll be,
I'll be on the
yeah,
phone,
you'll be on the
as long
phone.
as you don't cut me off, that's all.
No, we don't, not that lucky. I'm sorry. That's the,
Isn't your face gonna be right here?
I'm sorry?
Isn't your face gonna be here front and center with
Big.
us?
huge. Yeah, zoom in and do the
If
whole
Jeff
thing.
doesn't say we're having technical difficulties,
It'll be just like this, just on Zoom.
Yeah,
Oh, now he's doing it right now for you, Bill. Look at this. Unbelievable.
we could use a little AI.
There we
and you
go.
could like,
there's a lot of AI.
anyway,
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so, we'll get into it here. Buildings and grounds. Unfortunately, Glenn Adolphson is under the weather. He's been battling a steady migraine here the last week here, and so unfortunately, he's not gonna be with us tonight. So, Mike is here, Mike Young's here, and certainly can answer some of these questions because there's a lot of overlap, and particularly in the issue of the mowing, which is really the biggest change in this department. Mike worked a great deal on that project, and so he's probably as well-versed as anyone to be able to help out and answer any questions. So, in any event, going to this department, it's a net increase of 1%, $4,855. Obviously, the big drivers here are the increase in wages, which are for part-time seasonal employees who would, this is the last 2 months effectively of this budget year. So, which would be May, June, basically of '27, which is the start of that mowing season. That's what's included here on 2015. And then we also have capital costs and lease payments, which are included here under capital items. Equipment lease payment of $17,400 and a vehicle lease payment of $30,580. So obviously, this is a situation where, there's startup costs here to buying the mowers, the equipment, the weed trimmers, the backpack blowers, and so forth that you would have for any mowing, company, and then obviously the start of wages. So just to give some round figures here to get started, the current contract, the last year of the current contract is $310,000 for all of, there's 3 different contracts. There's one for town buildings, really the area around town buildings, cemeteries, and then there's a parks. So there's three contracts is how it's currently laid out. Again, the contract, the current contract we're in ends at the end of this mowing season, which is, as we talked about in those other budgets, the majority of that mowing season. So that's why you still have some mowing costs in cemeteries and parks and so forth. So total cost is $310 of the last year. We have not gone out to bid on a prospective next round of contracts. Obviously, it's too early. We wouldn't do that at this point. It would usually be next fall or winter before we get there. But also, we're going off of the last year in terms of we're trying to calculate savings. We're going off that last year of that budget. I expect that if we were to go out to bid, we would see a sizable increase by any prospective mowing contractor, but again, we don't have that information, so that's an estimate at this point. But at this point, we're figuring about $100,000 in savings from moving from that contract of 310 to 200,000. That's where the all-in cost of where we are in the first year of this. After that, after we have that initial rollout, we expect that the annual costs, and of course, there's increases in fuel and all those things, we expect to be about 180,000. So you're looking $130,000 in the aggregate of what you'd save over the last year of what that contract has been. Now, I'm gonna do the other side of this. The other side of this, someone has to manage four part-time or seasonal employees through a summer season. Someone has to do that. And we've talked a lot about what that means and employees and adding employees and all the trouble and pros and cons of those. But this was a topic of discussion last year of, could we do it? What would it look like? What's the cost? Is there a way to do it at some savings? There was some back of the napkin conversations during last year's budget process. This is more than the back of the napkin. So Mike's worked with Glenn to put together some of these items in this budget. Let's see. The only other thing I would just add on this is just really that obviously the time. And that's the one thing we didn't really talk about last year when this was slightly discussed. The amount of time of oversight and management of 4 employees. And that's a sizable concern. But I guess the question is how much is that $100,000 worth of savings or $130,000 worth of savings? So that's really, to me, somewhat the debate here. And if we obviously went away from this, we would have to add money back into the budget because we have not budgeted as if we were going out to bid, or if we were going out to bid with an extended number from what's currently there. So.
John, you've proposed it, so it suggests that you support this.
I do support it because I'm looking for ways to try to keep the budget down. If we had to add $100,000, $130,000 to this budget, we wouldn't have been able to hit 1%. So,
What are you anticipating having to pay these 4 employees hourly? How much?
do you have the?
$25 an hour.
Why don't you come up, Mike, so you can talk about how that process will work. But
Is it
Yeah.
is it possible to have one of those 4 be somebody has great leadership skills that could handle the other 3?
I'm concerned with what we can hire on a seasonal basis in that same capacity. If that were the case, I wouldn't have any concern about paying them slightly more to serve as a crew leader of sorts or something of that magnitude. I wouldn't have any issue with that if we could fall within budget. Yeah. And of course, we would have some sense of that, I would hope, by this time for the budget, next year's budget. So this is sort of the beginning of it, but the next budget we'd be dealing with, we would have the remainder of that season. So hopefully we would have some understanding of that issue, Bill.
Why is workers' compensation not increased substantially because of the 4 people? Even though they're part-time, we have to pay workers' comp, right?
We do
Our
indeed.
workers' comp is based on our total overall payroll expenses. And when I talked to them about this, they didn't anticipate our premiums going up that much because of this.
Because I know, like, my business, you
Oh,
can
sure.
throw around a blade. it goes up.
Absolutely.
And you got 4 people that are seasonal, part-time. That's a red flag.
We have some of that already at the harbor. The harbor takes care of all their own mowing currently.
But they can't mow, right?
They can.
The 18 and below.
They
can't.
cannot,
right.
but we have older people that are 18 or above down there that can mow. And
Yep.
our workers' comp insurance is not through the state, it's through MMA directly, so their allowables are slightly less than
So-
what something in the public market might be.
So this 1,400 number is built in with the 4 people
Correct.
for the last 2 months or 3 months of the 4 people.
2 months.
Yeah,
2 or 3.
May
May,
and June.
June.
Yeah. My biggest concern with the mowing piece of it, not
Yep.
that I'm looking to spend more money, but my
No.
biggest concern is we're hiring Farley right now, but they're taking care of spring and fall cleanup. We're hiring people to mow
Yep.
from May to October, and we know we can always mow right into or halfway through November.
Yeah.
So what happens there to the budget?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think the fall cleanup is, for those who don't know, it's sort of it's the last gasp of that season, or the first gasp, I suppose, of that season, where you're going around, you're picking up twigs, leaves, you're blowing out, you're sort of readying for the winter or readying for the spring. And I think, I think those are the types of issues, Craig, that I think are, we would hope to capture within the budgeted time. The other thing that I would say is in terms of our budget, I mean, we're also working on the idea that we're sort of at the same level through that entire time. And I would expect that as you get into October, obviously the mowings are fewer, or sometimes even the start of the season, so your shoulders can sort of pinch in too. So this is a start, it's a start, but,
So
I-
with our numbers.
I mean, this would be just the start of, right, that one
With our
season.
numbers with Farley though, does
Yeah.
it include mowing, spring and fall
Yeah.
cleanup of these areas?
Yeah, it does.
And we're proposing mowing,
Well, right.
really, I mean,
Yeah, I
to
mean,
a certain
Well,
degree.
it's to replace the Farley contract.
yeah, and I would hope that you would be getting, I think there's gonna be a period of adjustment that's surely gonna go into this, because you're gonna either hire people who've never done this before, you're gonna have people who have done it before, but done it for other people with different equipment, never having mowed maybe that place or that opportunity, so, yeah, you're gonna have some issues there, for
And
sure.
with this duration of what we're looking to hire people,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a brand new 4 people every year, guaranteed.
I'm concerned
I
about
mean,
that too.
I'm just saying, if I went out and I went to hire someone
Yeah.
from May through October, I'm not gonna see the same person every year.
That makes sense. I hear what you're saying, and
So-
those are some of the same concerns I have about it too.
Huge, yeah. I
hear
have a
you.
concern, I mean, I'm not looking to spend more money, but I
No, I
have concerns
know.
with this.
And,
No,
and this was a
yeah.
topic brought up last year. The budget committee last
Yeah.
year wanted us to look into this, so I think
Yeah,
This
this
is
has
a
been
good point for
brought up
discussion.
and talked about for a couple of years. And we put the numbers together to present them to the board. I'm gonna be as honest and as straightforward and give you a picture. I feel like walking up to a yellow jacket's nest, sticking my finger in there, pulling it out, and then when it's done, going, oh, that was not fun. And when they clear, hopefully, there's gonna be a huge learning curve, and there's gonna be time getting to where, and we're gonna say, that was not the way to go, or, oh, we've got 2 people now that can go weed whack the side of the Harbor Hill, which cost us
Right.
a fair amount twice a year. There is gonna be a learning curve the first year with this, it's not gonna be fun. That's
And the
gonna be-
learning curve, if we decide to go back, the company we
You-
have doing it is gonna be like,
And I'm gonna give them
Here you
credit,
go.
they do an amazing job.
sure.
And
Yeah.
we've put it out to bid, we've had other contractors try to meet that fulfillment. And guess who?
it's a hard number to hit.
Yep, it's hard to have that employees and equipment to do the size of this project. And if this was just mowing a lawn, that would be easy. They're mowing grass that goes from here to here in this distance, there's gonna be,
You can't do it quickly.
right.
Yep.
So it's gonna be, it's,
cemetery.
putting these numbers together, I'm like, oh, we can really, it's not gonna be fun. It is gonna be something that takes time to adjust to. There's gonna be a year that probably the work wouldn't look as, just the way that it does.
But then the following year, it's not gonna look as good either because you're gonna have a brand new crew.
But I think
Most likely.
overseeing it, you're gonna know, you're gonna
Yeah.
learn what bit you last year.
Yeah.
And you can
Craig, are you
overcome
suggesting,
those.
sorry,
And I'm-
are you suggesting we do something different?
Kind of. So, I mean, if you, what I would, and I wasn't here last year, so I'm, I'm going backwards. So I would rather, if we were gonna do it in-house, I would rather, again, not looking to spend more money and hire more people. I would rather see that employee staff in Public Works as a year-round position, not hire 4, but balance out and have the ability to pull because you have substantial mowing, snow plowing, and pull a crew over from Public Works, but keep the people year-round. So we know we have the quality, they have the benefits, and the luxury's there. But I think to sit there and try to set ourselves up to have a 5-month program,
Yep.
it's gonna be a lot of headaches.
It's gonna be tough.
I know
Yeah, so I'd
Cam-
rather not see it in buildings and ground, I'd rather see it in public works, and I'd rather see a full-time position year-round, so there's a curveball.
And I know Camden hires all its park staff seasonally. I don't know what their experience is with.
Snowball to park.
Okay, so they
Yes.
stay as full-time employees with benefits.
Yeah, that's how they do it.
Okay.
Was Farley the only bidder last
Yeah.
year?
Yeah, and just as a, maybe it's trivia, but before the start of this contract with Farley, the last contractor that we had actually no-showed the rest of the start of their season, of their last season, or I guess the end of their last season, but it was the start of, when I came on board, we had a contractor that effectively went,
The numbers didn't
be-
work.
belly up. And therefore, when Farley came in, to start their new contract, which is just as I started, they had to do a lot of work to maybe clean up what was undone. And the last, I'll just say, and I think there's a little bit of conversation about cemeteries. The last phone call anyone wants to get is the phone call a week before Memorial Day, and no one has hit that cemetery. That's not a call I want to get. Now, if we had people employed, you can be pretty sure we're gonna make sure that that's job number one. But there is a very, if Helen were here, and she's not, but maybe I'll just speak for her, that's certainly something we can't miss as a town. That's, just it's an important marker there.
And there's a second part of this as far as, we're on, I think, our last year for sidewalk plowing. That's not a huge number, but it is a number. It's a number that could go towards, and John and I, like you've said, we've talked about full-time employees. How do we get from part-time, keeping them coming back?
Yep.
I would like to think we might get one or two that you might find that's retired that enjoys doing that. So you might have a guy or two that comes back, maybe not. But with the sidewalk coming up too, there's now a little bigger picture.
Yeah.
And like I say, I think in the end, it can benefit the town, but how do we get there? So I guess that's why we put this together, to try to
Right.
see what we can come up with that everybody.
And I think we were trying to avoid full-time employees because they come with benefits and
Right.
so it's just a tricky balance.
It is gonna be a tricky balance, and it's, like I said, gonna be a learning curve, but I also think there's, if we can figure it out and we can find what works, there'll be an added bonus to the town of having the people that can do a lot more stuff in town, like you say, the cleanups, more cleanup here or there, wherever it may be. There's lots of stuff in town that doesn't get done, that needs to get done. Or if we do get it done, it's been contracted out at whatever that number is, 4,000, 10,000.
I mean, one question I had for you last time that I didn't really get to is like you're running 2 crews of 4 people. So if we moved this over, and this is complicated because between divisions.
Right.
If we hired 2 full-time positions, could you go from 2 4-person crews to 2 3-person crews and have your mowing crew? So we're not hiring 4 seasonal, but we're at,
The crew,
for efficiencies
what-
too.
if those crew were here all summer every minute, I would say, yeah, we could probably pull that off. With vacations, I'm fairly fortunate. My guys have lived up to, when they're hired, you're married to this for the winter. You don't really get vacation, you don't get to leave on the weekends, you're here. So in the summer, I try to be nice to them. They all want to take their time, they've all earned their time. So with that vacation comp time, you're down a guy or two a week almost all summer. Is an average, so.
So I keep hearing how hard this is going to be. And did we decide who's gonna wear this, issue?
Well, it's in the Buildings and Grounds Department, so Glenn has the unfortunate or fortunate ability to sort of manage this. There is gonna be a lot of, Mike and Glenn will both be working on this, a lot of the equipment and a lot of there's gonna be so much overlap there that there will be, both hands will be in the mix on this. But again, if you go back to the position of having everything, originally I had discussed putting all of Buildings and Grounds wages into the Public Works Department. I had no idea that's what you were thinking, but, you know, that's sort of my thought, is because there's so much overlap. And, you know, Mike and I have talked so much about this, trying to get the most out of those employees. I think the same is true with our wastewater employees as well. I think there's some overlap there that you could take advantage of in the same way. But right now, it's set up as a buildings and grounds employee situation, and of course, the idea was that all of those will be under public services. And that's the strategy and how it was going to be set up.
So from a management perspective, I mean, we're buying the equipment, right? So that's coming in, that's a fixed.
As it is at the moment, nobody really ever stands around, whether they're in buildings and grounds
Right.
or public works. If, you know, I think I said the other night, you know, if Matt comes back from what they're working on, cause they painted something out and he'll clean sidewalks up with a sidewalk machine if there's, you know, something to be cleaned or whatever.
Yeah,
He participates.
But my question is, you've proposed a certain way to handle this year of 4 temporary employees or part-time, or whatever we're gonna call it, full-time during the summer, I guess, or whatever.
I would say Glenn and I would be splitting it up right this minute, as working together on.
Right, but I guess my question is if we try it this way this
Yep.
coming summer and realize it's an abject failure, we haven't gone down some rabbit hole that we can't crawl back out of.
Yeah, no.
We just have to adjust. In other words, is there any
It
point
wouldn't
in?
be this summer, though, it'd be the summer after, right?
Half of it.
Yeah, half of it,
June will be the first time.
so,
then
right.
we have
We
to-
kind of
Summer
have, though.
27.
But lots of equipment under here.
Well, the equipment we bought, I agree, so we
But we
either,
don't need-
We're 210,000, was it, Megan, that were invested? Mower, truck,
Yeah, I think it's,
And employees.
trailer.
221.
yeah,
And then
no,
what we've also done is we've told our contractor, we're
we'll
gonna try
buy.
to do in-house.
Well,
So
but
what's
the
that number
option
gonna
would
come
be to
back
go
at?
to a full-time employee. I mean, if we're finding the part-time. is that
Right,
where you were
that,
headed, Bill?
that's the point I'm trying to make, is that unless you're suggesting that we stick with Farley, then we're committing to buying the equipment and having the labor either part-time during the summer, I'll just use those words, and all the associated, you know, agony that goes along with that, or full-timers that we end up sharing at some point, you know, in terms of your suggestion. But is there any reason that we're trying to go backwards on buying the equipment?
I think by looking at it, and just because of the line of business I'm in, the numbers don't make sense. Like, the maintenance numbers will not make sense. When you buy a $25,000 mower and you have 3 or 4 of them, maintenance, and this is for the overall department. So if you have $4,000, you could have $4,000 in each one of those mowers every year.
So your proposal isn't to,
I think that number
Bring
that
them
we're
in full.
saving is diminishing quickly. I think what Farley's is doing, and he's my competitor.
I was gonna
but-
say, yeah.
But what he's doing
You
for
could
the
bid on the
number.
contract too. We'd love a little competitive bidding.
And I made it clear with John, I'm not on here to get more business. But what he's providing for a service in workforce hours, it's gonna be we're gonna find there's gonna be a lot of hiccups, a lot. And you're gonna get those calls
yeah.
that, hey, it's 10 inches tall, where are you at? So I mean, I wasn't here last year, so I apologize, but
Yeah, I mean,
well,
maybe
maybe I'm,
someone from
I-
last year
let me
can
just
speak
ask
up.
this, maybe I'm confused. I think originally you had wanted to say that we would do this, but hire 2 full-time people that we could share through the winter. And now I'm hearing you're saying you don't want to do this at all.
So I'm saying-
So I'm not sure which way
Yes.
we're going.
So clarify,
here.
this business model, to me, does not work. The only way this would work in-house is to add to Mike's crew, half of this crew, year-round, which I'm not saying is the proper solution. I'm just thinking we need to look at the overall numbers. And if you're adding on health insurance benefits, I'm not a fan of adding on another vehicle by any means, because I feel like we have the spares because of snow, we're not plowing in the summertime. I think we just need to sit down and take a step back and say, does this make sense? Because we are gonna have replacement, I mean, the mowers are not gonna last as long as a backhoe. And they're 20,000 plus. So,
John, you're
yeah.
saying $100,000 is what you're
Yeah.
thinking you're saving?
Yeah, the cost between what we've put in here for cost versus what the last year of that
And
contract.
that takes into account this 220,000 for equipment,
Yeah.
and each year having to spend more
Yeah.
to maintain it?
Well, I mean, we don't have the numbers that Craig's, thinking of in terms of if it's 4,000 per mower, we have 4,000 in here right now. So we're short on that end in terms of if we need to have more in maintenance, that eats into that number, as Craig was saying.
I just wonder if there's not someplace else in the budget with all this money we have and so forth that we
Yeah.
could find to save $100,000 besides this.
This is just last year, this was a request by the budget committee that we look into this model, that there was a feeling like we were spending too much on mowing, and we have obligations with the cemeteries and I think our community would,
When you start looking at full-time employees, if we have to add more, and you think about the benefits,
no, that's
just-
why this model, I mean, that's why it's
This-
proposed this way.
I
Totally
know, but
understand
I'm
what you're
just thinking,
saying.
if you
Yeah.
add new employees,
Hypothetically,
additional,
If you added 2 full-time, would that be enough? Like, could you get it done with 2 additional employees?
I don't think, I would like to say yes, because we could always use the employees, but I would be reluctant to say that I thought we could.
Because you'd basically have 4 full-time employees for the summer, so they're part-time on a year-round basis, but they're working full-time during the summer. Is that the anticipation?
On just
free up
mowing.
your other guys to help, like it's,
Right.
those guys are, that summer's when his existing guys are doing their existing work. So
Right,
getting
they're out
them-
in the ditch
Right,
on
so
the
like I said,
roads.
between
The sun only
the,
shines a certain number of days, you can only mow the lawn, I mean,
that's on a good summer.
yeah, right, I mean, it's just, it's a.
So-
Right, and a lot of them are taking comp time
Yes,
from all the snow
exactly, and
plowing
their
in the
vacation.
winter.
If we took this plan out, what would that increase the budget by for this year? Because it's only it's a short period, right?
Right, it's a short period, right.
So,
I mean, we have the capital, so we have the equipment purchase in here.
Oh, is that in there? So
Yeah.
really, it wouldn't
That would offset.
go up this year.
It's not the total 212, because they're only gonna be lease payments.
Yeah,
We've only got 47,000 this year.
Yep.
Right.
I guess that would be, I mean, I don't think that really is pertinent though, because I mean, it's a long-term, I think everything's gotta be a long-term decision.
yeah,
It can't be based on a savings this year.
yeah.
I mean, that's always the problem with different budget committee, you get instructed to do something one
Well-
way, and then.
I mean, I think it's worth looking at the option. I think it's really helpful to see what the alternative, I have no regrets about getting this
No,
analysis.
this is great,
done,
and
for
it's,
sure.
I'm not,
And I thank the
but
town
maybe
for it.
we're rethinking it, that's all.
yeah.
Right, no,
Well-
I don't think we committed to this is definitely the right option. We had to see the numbers, and
No,
it's
and you
not.
guys-
Right. And John, you said on something important, which is the management.
Yeah.
We talked yesterday about span of control and how
Yeah.
many direct reports you have, and,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not calculating the amount of time you're spending,
Right,
and Glenn's spending, like, just managing, and, like,
Right.
that's not accounted for in
Right.
here anywhere. And
Right.
that's dollars that you're not spending on other things, he's not spending on other things, there's just time.
yeah.
And there's liability. I mean, we talked about insurance. I don't know, Megan, if there's a liability number that comes with this. You've got seasonal employees driving around town trucks with
Well,
trailers
we'd
and
still
mowers.
go through the same like background checks and driver record.
No, no, I
checks
realize
we
that,
do
but there's
now.
still a liability.
I think the
Our-
cl-
Well,
it's
the
like,
town is immune.
Our largest liability to it is our unemployment compensation
Okay.
rates, because if we hire full-time seasonal staff
Yeah, right,
and lay
right.
them off,
Right.
we're then paying them most likely unemployment until if they come back, or
Right, right, right.
if they find a job, or they collect unemployment all winter.
I think what
So
Steve-
our cost to that would substantially increase.
Another reason.
I think what
That's the-
Steve was
that's the
saying though is like,
4,000.
Yeah.
was
4,000.
claims, insurance claims. I can tell you like most of my claims are coming from my college kids.
Yeah,
Right. I don't want to say temporary. So
right,
my year round, like they're familiar with
Sure.
trailers, trucks, stuff
Yep.
like that. You take someone, you put them in a truck for
Yep.
4 months, probably something's gonna happen, and it's just part of the process.
How much did the Farley contract go up each year under the current contract?
oh, I can look it up, but, it was a sizable jump. The
substantial.
first year, yeah, the first year we went from the first contract into this 3-year contract that we're sort of ending here, was a sizable increase to the point where we had to, again, incorporate that into an existing year budget that we weren't able to plan for. So we were over budget, in all of those different departments on mowing. And then that was some of the conversation we had, I think, on last week. On Wednesday on cemeteries, we started using some of the trust lessen the impact on taxpayers because it was so substantial. But give me a minute here, I might be able
Just
to
it might give
pull
us
it
a
off.
sense of what we could expect, because it's not gonna be 310.
Yes, that's
It's gonna
right.
be more than that in terms of.
My recommendation would be go more like a model of Bar Harbor. So they sign contracts for contractors to maintain 10 years. And there's a step every year for whichever, but it gives us a fix. So if we decide we don't want to go down this avenue and we keep Farley, I'm sure he would be more than willing to sign a longer contract.
Yeah.
So that way we have that kind of security in place. Maybe not 10 years, but something
And you know what the
bigger.
number is every year.
Right.
And that's,
I
I
would
mean,
explore that.
not
The
to, you know, the certainty, the, the ability to take that off the table in terms of an administrative weight is, every 3 years does feel like a,
And it gives us peace of mind, and it gives the contractor peace of mind, because we all want to like schedule and hire the right amount of people. So,
I think with that being said, we could sit down with that contractor we have now possibly and say, look, we're at a point where this is real numbers. What could you do if we signed a longer contract? What does that look like?
Could we get some benefit from that?
Right, and
it's a
then,
good phone call to make.
yeah.
You said there's 3 separate contracts.
That's
Is
right.
He got all 3 contracts?
he does, yeah.
Is
What
there
at
a
the same
reason why they're
time.
3 separate and not one big one?
Yeah, no, the reason for that? Probably, it was, the idea was the more contracts, the potential that you might get a smaller, firm to bid and say, you know, ooh, I can't take all of this, but I can do this.
Who, yeah.
That was the
How many
original,
contracts you
yeah.
could take on all 3? Yeah. I got
And
you.
there is one off, right, on terms?
Sorry, what was
Isn't Marge Jones off on the dates too? I know the last time I looked at bidding, which I didn't, but
No,
they're
they're
all
all, yeah, they're all,
Are they all
they're
on
all
the
lined up
same?
on the 3.
Okay.
The RES is another one that's a little bit of an oddball. So just as part of, this had been talked about to some degree several years ago, before I got here. They stripped out a number of town buildings, the town office, RES, a number of them. And they said, well, we'll buy a Walker mower, we'll have a trailer, and we'll do that. So Buildings and Grounds is handling some of the mowing, so you'll see Glenn and Matt out there on RES and back and forth. That was stripped out without really the ample time that I think they needed and we needed to make sure we did it the right way. So this is the right time to have the conversation. We have a year before we cut a blade of grass to make sure we have the right number here, talk through the conversation. You know, because there's the give and take here, and I think there's right answers, there's wrong answers. We all want to save money, and yet at the same point, we want a good product at the end. So how do we do it? I don't have a magic crystal ball.
Well, it's philosophical,
at-
not just mowing, it's wastewater, it's anything else that we are outsourcing.
Yes.
That if you can package it and say, I need you to do this from here to here, I'm gonna take this and put it out to bid. And I'm not gonna have to screw around with the administrative stuff, the insurance stuff, the repair stuff, just the brain damage, to use a poor term, but it's just an easier way to run and then the other thing, the advantage is you have a neck to grab. If you need something done, you reach your hand out and say, you promise, get it done. It's harder to do that internally when you're balancing it against, well, but, you know, Mrs. Jones's, you know, wall fell over and it broke a sewer line or whatever. I mean, you're competing with yourself. So my own personal, just philosophical draw is write the scope as tight as you can, and if you can give it away, contract it. Because, you know, y'all looked at it, but prospective savings versus what it's gonna really take versus the agony of it, it ain't worth it.
You gotta take the lifespan of the truck. Like, we're replacing
Yeah, all
trucks
that stuff.
every how many
Right.
years? 4 years?
I'm just,
Mowers? Yeah.
that's just my own version of it. If you can define the beginning and the end in a nice little package, put it over here. Let somebody else deal with it.
Tend to agree.
Currently, does Farley do the mowing right through the end of the growing season, even like into November and all that?
Yeah, the
So-
whole mowing
Because-
season.
So what was
Yeah.
being proposed potentially was we would hire until October, right? So like Craig
Right.
mentioned, that month or so.
There's not much happening.
Right, right,
Yeah.
but if there's something to be
We gotta
done,
watch our contractors.
then we're going from our people are gone, then there's nobody for mowing if needed, but then Farley's crew comes back and does the cleanup.
No, I don't think,
Who
I
does
don't
the
think
fall
we'd be looking
cleanup?
at that.
Who
I
does the
think,
fall cleanup?
I think what we would be trying to do is trying to accomplish those items within the budget that, as it allows,
right,
right?
right.
So there may be less mowing needed on May first, but on May eighth, there may be a lot, right? So we're gonna get our cleanup first, right, our spring cleanup that first week, then we're getting to some heavier mowing and, you know, more than once a week in some
Right, right,
cases.
right.
We get to October, where maybe now we're not mowing once a week, maybe it's every 2 weeks, so our labor costs have dropped. We can stretch out a little bit and who's working for us, and maybe we're doing our fall cleanup on October 23rd.
And who's
let's
doing
say.
that?
The people who we have hired.
Okay, so,
working for us.
so my impression was what was said earlier was that
Yeah.
we were hiring them until October.
Well, that's
and then
just,
they'd
it's
be
a
done.
budgeted number.
So, okay, so it's a
Yeah.
budgeted number, it's not a practical people on,
Right, we're just,
Okay,
we're
okay.
trying to figure out what we think it will take to accomplish
so
it.
some people
We
would be
don't-
hired for as long as we need them.
Yeah,
Okay.
Or-
When,
yeah.
earlier when you said October, I was picturing somebody hired from April to October, and then bye-bye, you're done.
Well,
Okay, okay.
well,
it's
it's
the
not, yeah,
budget. I mean,
No,
Right,
that's,
well,
you just
right.
answered that, okay.
okay, yeah, yeah.
I just don't, on all of this, I mean, in the absolute best case scenario, if we didn't take up more of Mike's time, more of Glenn's time, all that, the best case scenario, we're gonna save, what were we saying, $100,000 a year?
Well, once you have your, it's 130, but,
Once
Yeah.
you've got equipment, but that's,
once you got-
that's
yeah.
assuming
And we don't know what
accounted for
Farley's
everything.
rates are gonna be, but
Yeah, also valid, but, I mean, if a mower breaks,
yep,
tells the motor and it's outside of warranty,
They're a $22,000 mower, so
that's
they're
gonna
not cheap.
add up real quick and, I don't know, it's hard, I mean, we already don't have enough room in building, the Public Works building,
100%.
so we don't have room to even work on the equipment. We don't have
Better in
room-
the summer,
we
but
don't
yeah.
have- Yeah, but we don't have room to store the equipment in the winter.
No.
In a sufficient spot.
We have a trailer, and
Yeah,
the idea was
we
stored.
would've had a trailer for these, but
I mean, if we're taking
But,
more
yeah.
Mike's time, we're taking more Glenn's time, then that's that much less time they get to spend on managing any of the other projects.
Well, yep,
I would say at some point, you know, if these numbers worked, and like you say, there's gonna be unforeseens that break and, you know, it's not a $60 replacement for these mowers, they are expensive. You know, as you get past that, hopefully there would be a outcome like we talked about, that you would get more done, but that's a couple years down the road before you get there and see how that's gonna work, so.
I tend to agree with all this direction. I mean, in general, in my line of work, you talk about buy versus build, and buy is usually the right option if it's available to you. That said, I'd love to ask just a out-of-the-box question, that because I don't know anything. Turning it upside down, I think the only way it does work is what Craig was talking about, having people that plow in the winter and then mow in the summer, because that's a nice sort of yin and yang, right? You know, it's a good way to fill out a year of time, perhaps. Is there any world in which some of the summer work is contracted instead, that other than mowing, where that could be more efficient?
You're gonna run into the same thing as this, but probably bigger numbers for
Right.
a good part of it.
and to that point, there are some projects that have been contracted during the summer. I think we talked very little
trees
about
and
that.
stuff like that.
Trees, yeah, but we also do have, some drainage work that, we have one road, usually it's been one road a year, we have one project we sort of can't get to with our regular crew, but, and so we pay more to do that, but allows us to get the projects done and have our paving done at once. We try to avoid that, 'cause it's more costly for us, but it's, where needed, it's absolutely necessary. So, to that point, Walker, I don't think it's
Yeah,
just.
I mean, my only thought was, you know, if you've got, because somebody else, we're hiring out the actual paving,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, if
Yeah.
it was like a simple add-on to, you know, oh, we'll also do your ditch and it's not a lot
Right.
more or something.
Right.
But, you know, like I said, I don't know this business.
That's good.
Yeah, so in the summer, so most of what we're doing, if you start looking at subbing out a dump truck,
Right.
there's $80 to $100 an hour. If you start subbing out a machine, it's gonna start at $150 an hour. So those numbers climb for what we're doing in this summer.
So why don't we do, I mean, not to, I mean, we could keep going and, but what we could do is have Megan go into the lab. There's a lab with beakers and things. And just run the numbers on a couple different options. I mean, a full-time option with sort of that, you know, and just have the numbers available and then, you know, have it ready for Wednesday. And I know, really what I'm trying to angle towards, so that way the budget committee has a lot of the data they need, information they need for those decision-making stuff on Wednesday. So, if we can angle towards that, and then you guys can weigh out wherever it goes and include the, you know, the board on that, so they have some of the same information to chew over.
And I think the one thing to twist that Walker just mentioned that popped in my brain.
Yep.
If we have sidewalk snow removal coming down the pipeline that we know is gonna be an issue,
Yes.
I would love to see that number built in with this, because that would be a great offset if we hired
Yes.
in-house.
Yeah, and just to give, so we have a $32,000 number that has been in the budget for, I think it's been the same number forever and a day.
He's still trying to log into QuickBooks.
He is. We're still trying to get a bill from him. And he, gotta love him.
Is this David again?
Dave Petty, yes, exactly. Gotta love him.
Sorry.
I was trying not to, I think we talked about this last
Everybody
time.
knows David.
Yeah, so the idea is, you know, at some point, he's not gonna wanna do this anymore, but he keeps coming back for the same price and love him for it, but we need to be prepared for that day, and I think there is a lot of these conversations are all kind of meeting in a place, and then at least we have the numbers and everyone can talk about what makes sense and where it is, so, I love it.
And that is something to look at. Like I said, Dave's been doing this forever. Dave's prices don't jump huge.
Yeah.
So I guess when you do consider looking at that, probably if we did outsource to somebody else, that number's not gonna be where
About
we're at today.
32,000.
Yeah.
No.
And not even just an inflation above it, it's,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
other things, questions on
Well,
buildings?
just
and-
on this,
Oh, sorry, go ahead,
go ahead,
Steve.
John.
If I could, can you give me the summary, Megan, that you do? Can you do it on a mowing year? So we can see the contract mowing year to the in-house mowing year, not a town budget year? Before you do the town budget year, do it so I can see, you know, a full year versus outsource versus in-house. I don't know I think that's fairly easy to do, but I think it'd be easier for me to get my arms around this, because trying to parse this out is, it doesn't add up when I try to do it on my own worksheet, so.
And
Thank
do you
you.
have an idea of what Farley would be charging?
I don't, I'm afraid to ask.
After this call,
If he's listening to
He's
this,
been
Tom-
listening the whole time.
Tom's paying attention, yeah,
So,
yeah.
I don't want to add to your list, Megan, but if you can break out the staffing costs under this model, because we just have the 186,460 number, that's the total
So-
wages for,
What my plan would be is to break out what the cost is for the current model, just separate mowing from the two
okay,
altogether.
okay, perfect.
And then I would compare that to what it would be to add 2 full-time employees instead, and then we can work through what full-time employees would look like, what would they do for 12 months a year. I think that that's an important piece. We don't wanna hire 2 people and then they're sitting on their hands all winter. Versus what a contract would look like for mowing and for the winter sidewalk cleanup.
I may be confused in reading this, but on page 183, when we talk about line 35-6, the Opera House building, 356,000, and then the
Yeah.
next page, it talks about $200,000 in painting and so forth.
Yep.
Explain that to me, if you would, please.
Well, yeah, and maybe this is the transition
Segue into
into
the
the next
Opera
one,
House.
but we'll do
Are we in
this.
the next one?
No, it's actually a really good, I think it's a good point to ask the question, Bill, so
Okay.
if I can answer it, and then we'll end up going there anyway, so, because we're gonna end up having that conversation. So, Glenn is our department head for this, and he's, takes on very seriously this building. There are 2 very key issues that we're dealing with right now. One is the sprinkler system in this building, and the condition of that is a number that's somewhere between $150,000 and $350,000 to replace. And
it
then,
doesn't meet fire marshal fire codes.
right,
It
exactly,
failed its testing.
I
right.
saw that in the notes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's one part. The second part is the painting. So in 2015, 2014, Ted approved the bond to have the painting done. And it's time again for that painting to reoccur. We're still paying the bond on the last painting. So both of those projects were part of Glenn's initial request. And this is maybe the part where we start talking about what's the bigger picture. You may recall in the fall, we had some numbers from an architect who'd done some work on all four buildings, this building, town office, public works, and the public safety building. We now have some of the mechanical issues have been identified, as well as some structural engineering concerns with this building. So those areas have been, or will be investigated in the next week, will be written up, and then we're looking for a workshop to be held in May to talk about really the issue that is the Opera House, where it stands, where are we going, where is the full extent of the concern, and how do we go forward with dealing with that. The number right now, of sort of the all-told-ish number right now is around $2 million. So, for this building. So, the issue that, sort of, as Glenn and I were discussing his budget, one, I feel like we need to have a bigger conversation about this building before we start investing $356,000 into a budget. Doesn't mean I don't support doing something here or whatever but there needs to be a broader conversation that the board, budget committee members, the community have about that investment, that grand level investment. The good news is that, from our conversation, the fire marshal's office, if we can establish and agree to engage the start of a plan to deal with the sprinkler system, they'll likely grant our license to continue operating as we have, which is good news and allows us to continue to operate. And that's why largely the budget here is unchanged from our general operation. Well, I should say the Opera House budget. But what's most important here, I think, is that this is a long overdue our conversation about this building. And how long does the town want to invest a great deal of money into this building where we lack parking, we lack a whole bunch of things that you need to operate a large municipal building in 2026, ADA issues, there's mechanical issues, never mind, all the smaller things that really how you operate. But that also opens up another issue. Where do we meet? How do we deal with those issues? So there's a cascading series of decisions that have to be made depending upon how that first block is decided upon. So the idea is really for that conversation to start, probably not end, but start in May, and then to hopefully grow into a broader conversation. And if there is desires to move forward and hold on to this building and invest in it, to work with those who may want to contribute towards that cause. There is TIF funding that exists in the town that could offset some of these needs. And, we've talked about it, what is the appetite of the taxpayer to take on more bonds?
So at this point, there's nothing in here, in this budget, for $200,000 for painting or anything
Nope,
else?
not at all. Need to make the decision about the big issue first. Yep.
So is there anything that we have pulled out of the budget that will, what decision do we need to make to get the fire, the certification waived or whatever it is that the sprinkler system issue is?
We need to, I think you need to make the decision as to, one, the method of the repair, and that is still being debated, so.
I don't know what that means, John. Can you explain? a
Well, is it galvanized pipe? Is it black iron pipe?
No,
Is it
what-
that
Does
sort
the
of,
fire marshal
that
need to
level?
know that to let us keep operating?
No, but we just have to know what that cost is. before I could say, okay, this is what the repair would be to repair the sprinkler
I
system.
think what John's asking, if you talked about a short-term
Yeah.
fix where the fire marshal
Yeah.
would let us continue to operate this
Right.
building,
Right,
and what does that take?
We would have to be in active negotiations with
Yeah.
a contractor to repair the system.
So what do you need from us to go into active negotiations with
We,
the contractor?
one, a plan would have to be finalized for the fix, and two,
And that's
the
the workshop.
funding.
So we can't do anything on
Joe
this
Rosillo will
until,
be done
till this
in time
workshop.
for
So
this
the
May
workshop
11th.
has to happen in May.
Right,
Yeah.
Okay.
so we would have to have a method for the fix and the funding for the fix for us to start working with a contractor to get it done, and that's what the fire marshal would require in order for us to renew our dance license.
And we have to have the funding for the fix?
Yes,
So,
And the TIF has the money for that.
correct.
there's,
all
yeah.
right, so we could tap the TIF
Yep.
for the
Yes.
funding for the sprinkler work.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
But
So
at that point, we
I'm
would
just
only
concerned
do
about
that-
if something has to go before the voters, we're
No.
sort of,
And what
The
is that
board can
number, the sprinkler fix, 150, what is it?
Somewhere between 150 and 350,000, depending upon which method is used. So the mechanical engineer who was looking at the building had one answer.
The
Glenn-
lower one.
Yes, the lower one. Glenn had, in working with sprinkler companies, had discussed the number as more like 350. So that's too big a delta to just say we'll go forward, in my opinion. So before, we need to get some resolution on that, put it on the table before the select board and others to discuss, and then we've got something to work from.
And what's the timing again? I don't.
May
tight.
11th.
Our dance license expires the end of June, and the dance license is what allows us to have people in the building for meetings or events upstairs or anything like that. In order for us to extend that, according to the fire marshal, we would then have to be in negotiations with a contractor to
So
fix the problem.
so it's the end of the fiscal year is the deadline?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just gonna add my 2 cents, I guess, because I've been involved with this building for a while as well. When you start into a building of this size and this age, there's gonna be a number of things that are unforeseen that are just gonna come out. I mean, there's gonna be the sprinkler itself, there's gonna be the sheet rock to put it back, there's gonna be mud and painting, but there's gonna be a number of unforeseen, hidden surprises in that number as well.
Yep.
Wh-
So we've
whether
got to
that-
start with,
whether
first of all,
that's-
the foreseen number, which we don't even have, and then we're going to have to
Whether,
understand.
and whether that number's 50 or 250 or 300, it will be there.
No, I understand, but it's
Yep.
this 2 million plus
Right.
that we're still trying to get our arms around. So there's a.
We still in
plan.
building and grounds?
Yeah,
Are we-
so building and grounds, any other questions on buildings and grounds?
I have, so the contracts with Thayer that we have for all the locations is showing Harbor Master's Office, $1,500. I'm assuming that's a contract for service, not just the cost of the tune-up, because if that's just a tune-up, that's insane.
No. So we have service agreements with Thayer for all of our locations, which includes tune-ups, it includes, Glenn would know better, but it includes some level of them being readily available if we have issues. It includes,
Right, is it cover,
Some-
does it cover like
some-
parts and labor at no
It does,
cost?
yeah.
Okay, all right, so it's essentially, it's a service contract.
correct,
That covers parts and labor, as well as an annual
and the
tune-up.
annual, yeah,
And what about HVAC, does that cover the HVAC too?
yes, they do
Okay.
everything.
All right, that makes more sense, because I saw that, I'm like, tune-up, that should be about $400 or $500 per boiler, at best, so.
The person that we had who was servicing all of our equipment, moved out of the area. And, so we had a really difficult time trying to find someone who would take that on. And at that point, Thayer was really the only one to pick up our call. And of course, we have a
Of course they
wide
would, they're
array of.
expensive.
Yeah, well, but they're also a wide array of.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what they, you know, for
Right, they
what we
cover a
have
lot.
here, what we have, there's, you know, our systems are, they're not, you know, like a home.
Yeah.
So you need to have somebody
I'm
who's.
aware.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's different. So,
Okay,
Any other questions? on
I
building?
just have one small one on just the supplies. Overall run rate seems to be well behind sort of what was budgeted and what's also budgeted this year. It's like 30,000 versus 73,000. I'm assuming that's just like timing lumpiness, or is there
Where
any?
are you, Walker?
What's,
Where are
it's, let's see what line is it.
So we're under supplies, which
Page.
starts with 183, buildings and
Thank
grounds.
you.
Oh, yeah.
Supplies?
Yeah, yeah, so there's a number of supplies there. So, yeah, for Harbor Master, 8,000, we've only spent 128.
Right,
And
exactly.
then it was reduced to 4,000, I guess,
Yeah.
based on some of those have been
Yeah.
brought down.
Yeah, for example, the Harbor Masters building, that's an area we've done a lot of work in the last 24 months. And, you know, being able to reduce that considerably is really just a reflection that we're somewhat done there. And I think some of it really also has been a reflection of what real world, you know, what we're actually spending. There are some projects that are built into each of those lines, you know, for last year's budget, but we've been able to pull back.
I guess my
Yeah.
question is there any room to pull back even further? Because the run rate's like $30,000 right now, so if it's,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's seasonal and it's all backloaded to the back half of the year, but.
Well, there's still some big projects that need to be done, like the public safety building, where they ripped out all the moldy sheetrock and stuff, that's gotta be all
Right.
redone again. The town office building, the LED lights are happening, what, next month?
They're supposed to happen last week, but yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a
Electrician.
big project that will take significant funding from there.
Okay.
The Opera House, we've kinda held off doing stuff here, just for the sake of the unknown. It wouldn't be wise to put a bunch of money into this building if the ultimate decision at the end of the
Yeah.
day is to get rid of it. So, things like that, just.
So do you
haven't
think the
been
8,000, I
completed.
think what Walker's saying is more, like, is the 8,000 more than we need for the Opera House? Could there be opportunities?
Like next year.
I mean, it ultimately depends on what the direction is with the building, I think.
Yeah. I pulled, like, there was a number of these I pulled back as
Yeah, I thought
well.
you did, I see.
Because I think you know, as you said, it's a reflection of year-to-dates, but it is very seasonal. A lot of these projects, you know, anything exterior, we can't do anything until,
Yeah.
you know, a month or two from now, so, yeah,
Just
I
looking
think
for-
last year is
looking
more of
for
an
change.
outlier. I think last year's an outlier,
Yeah.
is what I would say, and I think by the time we get to year-to-dates at the end of this
It'll-
existing fiscal year, it'll be probably closer to where we think we'll be next year.
What we budgeted for.
Yeah.
Great.
Anything else, buildings and grounds?
Just quick, just because we had a little bit of a philosophical discussion earlier about contracting versus doing it ourselves. This is a new department created in 2023. The idea was to pull these savings in-house. There was a expensive cleaning contract and some other things
Yeah.
that were sort of given as the reason for doing that.
Yeah.
And it's now costing $500,000 a year. Are you guys confident that making a decision to pull this in-house is still saving us money compared to hiring someone to do this and hiring someone to do that? Just looking at the bottom line cost of the
Yeah.
department
Yep.
has gone up pretty substantially. It was $231 back in '23. So it's gone up, you know, and it's buying the gear and a lot of the stuff that we've talked about is, are you still confident that this was the right decision to make in 2023 to pass on packaging it up and giving it to somebody else to do and holding them by the throat as opposed to bringing it in-house?
Yeah, so I think the contracting world out there has softened a great deal since 2022, 2023. That was a period where we had so much deferred maintenance that was, you know, quite literally falling down around us that the options were worse and far worse. And the costs were astronomical. I think that we are now at a point where, because we've built a system and built a consistent schedule of maintenance into these buildings, that the costs are going to level out because we've done that. Not the big ticket stuff like this building. To me, that's a sort of a different level than what we talk about here. It's the door that needs to be replaced.
Right.
That
Window
level.
that's- right,
If we
right.
keep there, right? Replacing that door was a project that took them not even a week's time, and the labor it was to put it in, and of course, the cost to pick it up from Hammond Lumber. If we had put that door out to bid, Could we have found a local contractor to do it? Probably. At what cost? Certainly nowhere near what we paid to do that. Now, how many projects of that level do you need
That's the
to then
question.
ensure over a course of a 52-week year, you've sort of accomplished that? I think, Glenn did something of a job to lay out here in the major accomplishments and talk about the cost of at least what those were to accomplish this year. And, for example, I would probably maybe take issue with some of his costs, because I think they're probably lower than what I would think if it was on the private market. But, for example, I guess it's a lean-to, is what I'd call it, at the Marge Jones field. That was something that was donated. It wasn't even a taxpayer, funded project. And the lean-to, all told, was less than $10,000 to construct. I don't believe there's anybody that we could find who would build that for $25,000 or $30,000 as suggests here. I think that number would have been closer to 50, to be honest. But the point being, how many of those do you have that add up? And to me, there's a considerable number of them, Steve.
Okay.
And the other thing that I would also say is it's the timeliness of it. When there's an issue, it's a phone call and it's a trip over in the van and it's dealt with there and then. To get a contractor to show up at a time you want, I mean, we've all been there, it's next to impossible. So we're getting it done quickly, and I think that's the best way that we can manage that money moving forward. But, I think you're right. You have to constantly ask that question of yourself, right? Is this still the right approach for where we're at? I think right now it is. But might that not be true next year? Yeah, that's possible. I think right now
What would
is
change between this year and next year to make you think that next year might not be the right approach?
the economy tanks, contractors, everybody, handybans are on every corner. I mean, look on Facebook Marketplace, or it's trying to find somebody, anybody know an
Somebody on
electrician?
Craigslist who will put a door in for us.
Yeah, exactly, right, and that's and we talked about sort of the ease of being able to have that at the ready. It's important, and at the level we're looking at, I think we're okay. If we're really looking at larger projects, if we were trying to tackle the whole building,
obviously, yeah.
that's off the line, yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess how you value keeping your buildings maintained on a more constant basis rather than waiting for things to go wrong
Yeah.
is just
Just maintenance on like the brick buildings, I mean, they're supposed to be sealed every so many years to keep the moisture from wicking into the brick. And I work right, Glenn's desk is like within view, and I will say he's always going and on.
Yeah,
to
I don't
something.
doubt
Yeah,
that.
no.
It really, it's just
yeah,
it's an
no,
equation.
Weigh it out.
it's the right question.
And we have stuff in the Public Works building that, hey Glenn, that door just not opening.
I'm sure.
Off he
I'm sure
goes.
he's thrilled to get those phone
So,
calls.
so that's stuff that, nobody in this room even knows or
Yeah,
sees.
sure. It just gets done. It doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Right.
gotcha.
Okay, anything else, buildings and grounds?
Okay.
We're only 40 minutes behind, so.
How about the
Thank
Opera
you.
House?
Yeah.
Page 233. So we somewhat started this conversation, and I'm not sure, in terms of the operations, obviously, we didn't get into that aspect of it, but this budget is really staged as if we are continuing to operate and continuing to do so, obviously.
Or you want to just stay through this?
I think, I don't know. Maybe just for this one. But, I think by and large, and Megan can certainly speak to the operation side of it, but I certainly feel this is a long overdue question. This is something that budget committees and select boards have been talking about every year.
But this proposal as written is a hold steady.
Hold steady.
Make those decisions in May
Yep.
before the end of the fiscal year
That's right.
and see where we go.
That's right. What else, Megan? Anything else that?
John, I have a question on, again, page 234, I guess. When we talk about the number of employees, they're all part-time employees in this. We saw a jump last year, this year, 7,000 to 13,000 in employee benefits for part-time employees. What is that?
you could see, I think it's the breakout on the next page, Bill, so we've got various unemployment compensation, workers' compensation, main paid,
PFML.
excuse me.
Mostly FICA taxes is where the majority of it is, Medicare.
So those are all.
So every time we see employee benefits, those items are included in that.
Right, unemployment.
Well, it
workers'
depends on the
comp,
department.
FICA,
Wages also doubled in that period,
They did.
which is my question. It still seems like a lot more wages than I would have expected for the, like Rebecca and.
Well, it's
the other people.
33,300, right, is what's been spent so far year to date?
Right, yeah, it's true,
Because
exactly.
they're not gonna, because they only if there are things going on in the Opera House are they even being paid.
Right.
There's nobody being paid just because they're on the staff.
So we budget roughly 20 hours a week for our primary rental agent, which is responsible for renting the facility out for private use. She does all the promotions, she manages the client expectations, she does their billing, she does all of that. We budget 12 hours a week for the individual that does more community-centered events. So events that aren't necessarily sponsored by the town, but they're open to the public. So we're charging ticket fees for that and we're retaining the money. So we budget 12 hours a week
And
for
that's some
her
of the
to
money
do
that's
that.
showing up in the revenue you're talking.
Correct. And then honestly, the video tech portion of this is the largest expense. So, in order to find qualified people to run our sound and light equipment upstairs, it's expensive. In some cases, like for a wedding or something, that's built into their rental fee to reimburse us for that. In other cases where we're collecting ticket fees, that's not reimbursed. And an event can range anywhere from 2 days for a wedding to an entire day for a concert or something that's happening here. So the hours for that are hard to budget depending on what's happening here. Unfortunately, we have not, this will be our first fiscal year operating all year since we had the sprinkler damage upstairs, which happened 2 years ago. It's incredibly frustrating that we find ourselves in this place with the sprinkler systems because we're finally getting into a groove with our staff and the events that are happening here. As you can see, our ticket sales have done really good. Our rentals are about 50% of where we would expect them to be this time of year. So to like have another roadblock thrown at them for all the hard work that they've done to like really get this place active,
Yeah, no, it's been great.
it's frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is that why we were at 67,124.25 because of sprinkler damage?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the big jump in overall cost is really having to pay that higher rate for the specialized services that we get for the technicians that work upstairs.
And if that's built into a rental agreement, we still pay the wage up top and
We
then
do,
get the revenue.
yes,
Right.
yep. And like it's for any rental agreement, it's reimbursed. We require reimbursement of not only the wage, but the taxes and such that are associated with that. With the like more community events, I'll call them, we try to build that into the ticket sale price.
In ticket sales, you're over budgeted, I mean,
Correct.
you've already collected for a half a year more than what you budgeted for the full year.
Correct.
So that's-
I was apprehensive to increase that. I am really apprehensive to increase the rentals because at this point, we might not be operating July 1st if we don't have a plan forward with the sprinkler system.
So you're
So I do-
doubling that number?
I did end up doing it, hoping that we could have some sort of solution and continue to operate the way that we have been operating. I do think that we could hit that number, with the, inquiries and stuff that we've received, but honestly, I've told, both our rental agents to really hold off committing our space until we have a path forward.
Can
for
they
the
commit
sprinkler
it for
system.
June anyway? They just can't commit it from after July
Right.
1?
We have a couple weddings scheduled after July 1st, which we're gonna maintain and do whatever we can to hold those, but in terms of scheduling after that, last week I asked them to really just hold off until we can figure out where we're going.
How much of the wages of the 121 range is gonna be fixed if we are not open?
None of it, they're all part-time employees,
So 100% of that 121?
correct?
So if I take a really cynical view of this, and apologies for that, but if I'm just looking at that, and we look at the chart at the bottom of 234, we're essentially operating a concert venue, and I'll use that word loosely, unless I'm missing something, and we're generating 50,000 in revenue and spending almost 250 to keep it open. And that delta, that 200,000 or 180, or, you know, somebody can do the math better than I can, but somewhere around 180 to 200,000 is essentially, it goes to the town benefit, or the benefit of the town people, saying, we've got our own place, historically, it's unique and all that stuff, I respect that, understand it.
Well, in community events, I mean, it does create.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, all right, we're getting 50 grand, we're spending 250, to keep this open. That's a lot, that's a big difference, and what are we getting from that?
I mean, it's a big difference, especially considering, you know, we've got this room that obviously we use for meeting and stuff, but the town office shortly isn't gonna be big enough to house all our employees anyway, so that's gonna need work. So if we're gonna build a new building anyways, we could roll a meeting room into said new building.
I'm just asking the question philosophically almost, in terms of just, you know,
Well, we're up to 332 events in this building. I mean, it's taken quite a jump. So these aren't all paying events. Megan, how many of the 332 would be ticketed events?
I would have to ask them to separate
Well,
that out.
I don't know, just ballpark it.
Yeah.
Is it like,
Probably 40% of them.
so 40% are ticketed?
The majority of our income comes from rentals. I mean, and some ticketed events are hard. And when we first started down this road, it was really bumpy to begin with because, one, historically we hadn't had those kind of events here. Two, we were hitting market. This area is very art focused, so there's a lot of facilities that offer concerts, that offer the same kind of art theme to them. And in order for us to find our market in that was difficult because we were planning like a contra dance the same night the Strand was doing something there. So we were constantly competing with area venues. Carrie and Rebecca have worked really hard to work with those other venues to ensure that we're not planning things at the same time that they're planning things. And that has ultimately what has made our ticketed events more successful this year than they had been previously.
All right, so with our events that are not ticketed, the ones where we're renting the facility, what's our margin on doing that?
I would say probably 25% profit. The rest of
Versus-
it goes to expenses, so. when we
Versus the
figure-
ticketed events margin?
Probably closer to a 60-40, so 60% our benefit, 40% to.
Okay. One thought I had about this, first of all, I was impressed by the increase in the number of events, which kind of tells me that there's plenty of opportunity here.
We haven't even talked to the chamber.
Yes, exactly.
Right, but I'm also, you know, when you get into the budget, what's interesting, it's not, we took a nice surge in our revenue, but now we're cutting our advertising and marketing budget, and I'm like, wait a minute, you know, why are we doing that? If anything, we should be putting more into marketing. 15 compared to last year, but the prior year, we did 25% more in marketing, and we had a great year.
We did.
And then we cut back this year, and we're expecting to do better. I'm like, there's a disconnect in there.
I think that there was some, like,
mean, the-
ramp up to getting us back out there because, we had really fallen off the radar for, like, weddings. We were no longer, like, people that professionally plan weddings, this wasn't a place that they were utilizing. So we're back in that market. That year that we spent 19,000, we worked with Wedding Wire. Weddings are honestly where we make the most money. We were working with Wedding Wire to get our name out there. And then once we did like a year of that, we kind of like pulled back for that because it's really expensive. But that allowed us to get our name out there. So I think doing that stuff up front and saying, we're here, you can use this space, really benefit us. And maybe we don't have to spend that money because we're on those lists and Rebecca's actually actively engaging with these people to say our space is available.
Well, I think there's different kinds of marketing, I guess, is what I'm pointing out. And I think it's well worth investing, particularly in social media marketing. Carrie's done an excellent job with that. And she's more than earning her keep in my mind.
Yes.
And that's where you build this impression that this is the cool place to be. And you can market to the marketing professionals, but where you want to push is with the people that are getting married, because they want to get married in a cool place.
Right.
And they want to go to the marketing or the wedding professional and say, how about that place? And we've heard a lot about that. That's the kind of marketing you want to be doing.
We
So
do a lot of, most of our marketing expense comes from boosted posts on Facebook, Instagram. I believe that they've set up a TikTok account for that to start being used. Those platforms aren't incredibly expensive for us to do that type of advertising. We haven't looked at like targeted advertising, like the ads that you get if you scroll Facebook or Instagram. That's certainly something that we could look at. And I don't know how much that would be.
So, and then, I don't want to belabor this point, other than I think we should put more money into marketing. And probably just $5,000 would be about the right amount, I think, just to maintain our position. But do we market the harbor with the Opera House?
We
when-
do.
Okay.
And
'cause-
we are working with the hotel now too, in terms of if they get requests for like wedding services or something,
again,
we
the-
collaborate together on
This
that.
whole downtown, the village here is starting to really kind of bring a lot of features together to where I think this is going to be increasingly an opportunity, particularly for destination, for weddings and special
We
events.
also market the park as, like, if you wanna have an outdoor ceremony and an indoor reception, the park is available as part of the rental agreement as well.
Yep.
I see your point, okay, I get it. And I think we talked about doing a plan that says if we're gonna spend $2 million in this building to do whatever, the town, I think, should be aware of the commitment that they're having to make with tax dollars to keep this going. I think everybody probably
Whether it's
looks at it.
tax dollars or other sources. of
Yeah,
funding.
understood. I mean, I get that, don't get me wrong, if we can get someone to do this, but I just think that when we look at making these decisions, people don't understand what the financial impacts of it are. I happen to like the building personally, okay, but just purely looking at it as it's an abstract thing. It says, it's an old building, it doesn't cost any money, and we, have yoga classes in here once a week, so we make some money on it. That's not what we're talking about here. And I just think that there's not a good sense for the fact that we are, as taxpayers, fundamentally, we're already subsidizing it by the tune of about 200,000. If we're gonna spend 2 million, and we can find that money from some pocket somewhere, that's great. But I just think we need to better understand if we're gonna spend that kind of money, we're gonna operate this way, essentially as a loss. And I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just a decision we have to make as a community.
Well, yeah, and there are other aspects, you're hitting on some of it, Bill, on the role of supporting and building economic activity in the town. When these events go on, they involve caterers, equipment rental, photographer, there's a lot of people that are generating income off of these events that have nothing to do necessarily with putting money in the town coffer, except it's indirect. by, you know, supporting them as businesses in the area and presumably in Rockport.
I just don't know that the town needs to be involved in running a venue, though. I mean, towns typically aren't the greatest concert venue operators out there.
I'm not disagreeing with any of this, by the way, any of that kind of sentiment. I'm just saying if we're gonna do it,
I mean, even if we doubled our current revenue, we're still losing $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Minimum. And how much time does everyone put in here that doesn't get reflected in here for labor?
Well,
Yeah.
that's the piece I'm wrestling with sitting back here. When I'm listening to Megan and getting a sense from Megan how much of her time is being spent on this,
well,
I mean, if we do nothing else, can we find somebody else in town government besides Megan to take this on? Like it's just the amount of time taken away from the work that she does around this, putting up with all of us and all of the other, the complexity of stuff we've talked about going forward. We've got to do regionalization. I mean, there's a lot in that job already. And I don't
Yeah.
even want to know how much of her time is being consumed
Yeah,
talking about catering.
I'll jump right in on that because I don't understand why Megan's being tasked with this at all. I mean, I think it's not that you're not doing a great job, Megan, but you're far
Yes,
more
that's right.
important in other areas
Exactly.
than doing this. So I totally support what Steve is hitting on there, so.
Let's get Clay to do it.
He put
Knows how
on
to put
a
on- he
great
knows how to put on a
toboggan
party, I'll
event.
tell you.
I will say, the toboggan event, I mean,
I guarantee you I'd make some revenue.
I guarantee.
Or you'd buy a sign that said
Water
closed.
Right.
We might have the cops
We'd have a lot of
outside,
police
but-
overtime, but
the
that
West Rockport Opera House. How about that?
I do think it's worth mentioning because it would have a budgetary impact. My current staff here would not be able to take on a capital campaign that would be required for the funding needed to rehab this building. So if that's a desire to keep the building, do a capital campaign for funding, we would have to contract that out or hire somebody specifically to do that. We don't have really the expertise to do that, nor honestly the time to dedicate to that what it would need.
No, I think it would have to be a private foundation formed by
Right.
citizens.
Yeah, I think there are citizens that would join it. I might live with one.
I think I just heard a volunteer.
No, candidly, I'm being quiet because I have my budget committee hat on, and I agree completely with the sort of cynical approach, which is the right one for evaluating its economic value to the town and its costs. As a resident, I love this venue, and I would hate to see it not be a concert venue. Yeah, I think it's one of the best concert venues in Mid-Coast, at least acoustically, certainly for classical music, which is why it's such a shame that Bay Chamber is not currently a user. But I think there's a possibility to change that. So I think it's probably best to set most of this conversation aside for that workshop in May. I think there is an economic case to be made here. I think that, certainly the booking agents, should be covering their own set wages in booking revenue. It doesn't make sense for the town to be subsidizing booking agents just so that we can meet as a select board and budget committee down here. But, I don't think those are necessarily changes for this year, but that is one of the reasons why I'm constantly pressing on this wages number, because that's not a good look. I don't think anybody in the town's gonna think it's, great to be spending this much, so, more than twice as much on wages than we make in revenue.
And I think that's a tricky number, because it's obviously a
Yeah.
budgeted number, but as we at least see for this last year, it bears no relationship really to the reality, so.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's
And-
difficult.
We also should look at what's to the right of us with, left, I'm not sure which it is, but with Camden Opera House. I mean, the town, Camden subsidizes that quite a bit as well. And it is, it doesn't operate at a profit.
No, yeah, and this one certainly, no matter who owns this building, it's never gonna operate as a profitable concert venue.
This is basically our snowball.
Yeah, I mean, it provides a community benefit, or at least that would be the reason you would keep it, so we'd have to have that discussion.
Yeah.
And we have a plan for that, but we don't know the answers tonight.
Toboggan Nationals run right up the back.
Got a nice steep hill there, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think ultimately, if the desire is for this building to make more money, I think that you would need a full-time rental agent that really solely is focusing on what is happening in this building, and it's not, while I love the staff I have here, and they do a fantastic job, they have 2 or 3 other jobs that they do outside of here, so it can't be their sole focus. So I think if the ultimate goal is to have this place be more active and have it make more money, you really would have to hire a full-time person to dedicate their time to solely that.
And I'll shut up after this. My only point is, let's be transparent about what we're doing. That's all. If we want to subsidize this place from taxpayer dollars to the tune of 250 or 200,000 bucks a year, so be it. Let's just let everybody understand that.
Yep.
That's all.
So if we have that meeting in May and there's no movement on the improvements, a lot of these numbers will just disappear, right? Or be reduced.
By that point, it'll be too late, because
Yeah. I mean, they'll be
warrant-
in the budget,
it
but
won't be
next year
spent.
they won't be
won't get
spent.
spent.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
We'll be able to apply the $236,000 to that new sprinkler system.
Yeah.
Best one we can find.
You're
yeah.
really holding on to keep this place going.
That's right.
And then my other question was, it came up before in other meetings, is about meetings for stuff like this. Like, I'm a firm believer, like, we're paying taxpayer dollars to the schools. Like, we should start those conversations with them sooner to make sure we can, I mean, they have plenty of conference spaces that, I don't think we need to build a new space if we're already contributing. That's my mindset.
Just depends on scheduling, I think, but
Yeah, but I mean,
good,
there's plenty
good
of them.
feedback.
For what meetings are you talking about, Craig?
So at one point, I had mentioned about meeting space, and like, this was big for our meetings.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the town office, we don't have the room out back anymore. So
Select
this is
board
really it.
meetings.
So at the schools, they have conference rooms for
Yeah.
these same type of meetings.
Well, we do have a library with a Rockport room in it that we've used in the past and
Right, so we have, so,
some other options.
I would just say, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have that be a hang-up for why to put $350,000 into a sprinkler system.
As long as we can broadcast and meet those obligations.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's true. And I would say, there'll be a new superintendent. I think there'll be a new opportunity for conversations about collaboration and sharing spaces. I think we need a new look from their side of the table to change some of that, I think. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, those are taxpayer-funded spaces too. There's no reason why we couldn't collaborate a lot more on the use of those, especially given they're in Rockport, so many of them. So, we'll see what we can do, and start a conversation. So I'll stop there.
I would just add that when you're looking at doing the maintenance on this building, what year did we redo this and it was painted, Megan?
2013,
13, so it's looking to be painted again now.
200,000, that's all.
Just look at the bigger picture of what we have for materials available today and weigh out whether something on the outside could be changed to get more time out of the building versus
Right.
painting it now and looking at, oh, here we are again, we gotta paint it right
Can a
off.
mowing
Just
crew
keep
paint?
this sideboard, that'd be great.
Aluminum siding.
Yeah, I was just
on
gonna say, a
Walker's
little
siding.
vinyl
Vinyl's
siding for.
beautiful.
Vinyl. They're doing wonderful things with
I-
vinyl. You won't even notice the difference.
There is shingles now out of vinyl.
Yeah, there you go.
Can't even
Right.
tell. that
Can't
they're-
even tell.
Think they're cedar.
PVC
So,
trim, come on.
I would look at the big picture when that comes down the road.
Yeah, this will be a tough discussion, but a necessary one, so.
And the only reason we have to wait that long is there's a structural component and there has to be, so I would have loved to have had this conversation tonight, but the soonest we'll have all of the report ready is really the 11th of May. And I would love to do it now or earlier, but literally that's as soon as we can get Joe to get all the wheels working. So I look forward to a good conversation. And this was, I think, really helpful to sort of weigh all this out because there's a big part of my heartstrings pulling here as well. I won a lot of Halloween contests in this room upstairs, so, but the number doesn't gonna go away. All right, we ready to go ahead? How about 209? Page 209, debt. The only change here is a interest-only payment for the stream crossing bond that passed in November 24. We're now far enough along in that process where we've started to spend real money. We didn't talk about it, but this is we'll have some of those projects going online this year. Obviously, we had the Robinson Drive, but we had a number of those stream crossings that'll be constructed this summer, and so the bond needs to start. Any questions on debt?
What page is that again, John?
209.
What is BAN? B-A-N?
Bond anticipation note.
Okay.
So we're just talking about the Opera House expenses, and so what is the outstanding bond on the Opera House?
That's the bond they did to paint this and replace the roof.
And what's left on that?
Well, they did a 20-year note on it in 2015, so 9 more years.
So in a way, you could add to the 200 that, yeah,
I didn't mean to remove it.
no.
Wait till we get to 25 years into the West Rockport Fire Station 30-year note,
Yeah.
and we're gonna have to rebuild that entire building in 25 years.
We're taking
Still
care of
paying
it.
for this one.
Taking care of it, we're not
We're
gonna
gonna
let
build
that
a
happen.
station to rebuild first.
Okay, all right, positivity, everyone, positivity, it's smiles and there we go.
Positively have a new village.
This
We
was
have
year's
good
budget.
numbers.
There we go. And it's nothing more on debt. If not, we'll move to 271.
Debt, we're sort of locked in, right? We have nothing to
There's
do
nothing
about
we
it.
could really do about that.
And
Can I
let's
ask
not
one more
create
question on
debt.
page 212? Excuse me,
Oh, sorry.
212.
Yep.
We paid $600,000 for a Typhoon pumper. What is that?
Squad 25.
For fighting what
That's
kind of
the
fires?
Fire truck. That's the, they call it the Typhoon pumper, but that's just the squad, the biggest truck that we have that has
That
every
is the
type of
biggest.
equipment. What's
Okay.
that?
That is the biggest truck we have.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is kind of ignorant, because that truck now is like 1.2.
Thank you.
John?
Keep it running.
Hey,
The long-term debt for wastewater, that's not in here, is it?
No.
Okay, so all the,
Wastewater's all in the wastewater
it's
budget.
all over in wastewater, okay, that's what I thought.
The only thing that I include in here is on the summary page. The state sets max allowables for municipal debt. And I include that debt amount into what the municipality's total debt is, along with Midco Solid Waste and the county.
Okay, that's why I probably.
That's why you see sewer debt, which
Yeah,
you were
that's why I
wondering.
probably.
But it's not
flagged it.
actually budgeted here.
Okay, got it.
if there's nothing more on debt,
Hang on.
we will, 271. These are special assessments. By and large, this is a revenue area, tax billing, but is the only expense here. But in large part,
I wondered about payments in lieu of taxes, how those are dropping. And
Yep.
wondered if we need to remind our nonprofits that we really appreciate payments in lieu. What do you think's going on there? Is that? Because we used to get them fairly frequently.
yeah, I really, I can't put a finger on that, honestly. I'm not really sure why that would be the case.
How many nonprofits do we have in Rockport? Do we know roughly?
We have a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
I'm a nonprofit too.
You are. Well, there's that kind of nonprofit, and then there's the legal nonprofit.
I want to be.
Those trucks are awful pretty, though. I don't know. I think that we all.
I don't know what trucks you're talking about.
Yeah.
So we don't know rough.
A total number? No, I don't have that number, no.
I mean,
But,
honestly, our largest nonprofit's the hospital.
I was gonna say the hospital.
yeah. And then, of course, the land area.
Yeah, the
Lincoln
trust,
Heritage
land
Trust, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Has there been
Furniture
adjustment,
school,
like I know with Cameron National selling,
media.
has there been an
Yeah.
adjustment to account for that yet?
not yet,
Not yet, but there will be.
no. But we don't have to mention it, and maybe they'll forget.
They haven't forgot. So, I mean, that one, that was
Yes.
a
That's-
multi-million-dollar property.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's no longer,
It's a
That goes
church, yeah.
nonprofit.
yeah,
What did
well,
we-
it's due to be,
Church.
yeah.
We
I
figured
mean,
out it was, what,
in theory though,
70,000
where they're
a year or
moving
something?
from
70.
will become, but it's a fraction.
Right. Well, there may be some more development there, hopefully, that will offset to a degree.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
No, you're right. I mean,
I'm
those
just
are the-
saying, like, as
Yeah.
taxpayers, like,
100%.
we're losing some of our stuff to nonprofit.
Yep.
Totally agree. yeah.
I think we just need to think about that.
But didn't we come up with a number on that, wasn't it like 70,000 in taxes that we're
That we'll
Yeah.
lose.
losing?
I think there was like an email going back and forth about that. Yeah, I think that
Thought
sounds
it was
right.
70 grand.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Suddenly just poof.
Well,
In
it
revenue.
has to carry through, though, right?
Not yet, right, but it
It
would
has to carry
be-
through until the next billing cycle, right?
Well, they have to apply, for that, and there's no reason why you wouldn't. Obviously, you have to be conducting services there at
Right,
that
right.
point, which obviously they're not
Will
quite
happen.
there yet.
Yep.
But I expect in the next year, you're probably gonna see that, yeah. I mean, and April first is sort of the demarcation point of those things. We have a Board of Assessment Review member right over here to on my left, and I'm sure maybe he'll see it at some point, so he can't say a whole lot, but he's well-trained now, though. Am I right, Bill?
I got 3 certificates now.
Hey, there you go. But yeah, in any event, it's coming, for sure. On that note, and I don't want to sidetrack too much, but one thing that is the city of Rockland is going to be looking at is this idea of stormwater, and trying to assess stormwater impacts. And that is not something that is property tax-free for a nonprofit. So in instances like a hospital or any of these other who have improvements, it's an opportunity, and that I think the city of Rockland is looking at, who also has a number of nonprofits, to potentially even out the balance for those of us who are not nonprofits, unlike your business. So, yeah, no, I think that's an avenue of working around that issue, because, yeah, it's gonna just increase the burden onto all of the rest of us as residents.
Do we have anyone with our staff? I mean, we have committees and everything for everything,
Yeah.
but do we have anything in our staff that does like a softball pitch to these nonprofits to saying, hey, just a reminder?
Well, yeah, that's somewhat of, I think Denise's, there had been a letter, 3-4 years ago or so that went out and said, hey, we'd love to have you contribute towards, again, it's at their discretion, not ours.
But a reminder that they benefit from town services.
Right.
I would like to add money to advertisement there, right here.
There you go, right,
Well,
yeah.
that's where I was
Sorry.
gonna go, like, what do
Yeah.
they get out of it? I mean, they should get a mention or brought to you by something to just,
Yeah.
recognize that kind of.
You don't think a public thank you at a select board meeting is enough?
It was too quick.
Or like a banner off the side, I don't know.
It was
something.
Yeah.
too quick.
No, and if
banner
there are
at the
thoughts
pickleball
to that
court.
end, I'm
Yeah,
certainly
happy
all
to-
ears,
I think it's something to look into, because we do
Yeah,
have a
sure,
significant
seriously.
number of nonprofits.
I mean, we do have a number of individuals, certainly, and I also want to say that, not on this list, who contribute to our general assistance and some of our areas in need. We have a number of residents who put towards those needs and greatly help us lighten that burden as
You
well.
think- Just think about how to
But-
incentivize it.
Yeah, it's a great idea, and
Rather than sort of, hey,
love any other thoughts you have, banners or whatever that may be, so, okay,
based on it.
sorry.
Yep, it doesn't really affect the budget, but it could affect the budget long-term.
One thing I want to just note, and I don't know that anyone else is on the state treasurer's website. No? Okay.
State what?
State treasurer.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know, that's not a usual place most people go. So
Claim property.
annually, there is an estimate of expected revenue that will come via the state revenue sharing. And the number we've put in here is not the number that they have listed. And largely, this was a conversation that Megan and I had, and it's not that we don't trust the state treasurer or state auditor or whatever that may be. But looking at current year collections and weighing that against what their number is, which I believe 870?
Their estimate last year was 870.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And we're likely gonna fall considerably short of that number. I
You mean
felt.
they're not likely to pay us that much?
Yeah, so the number here of 780 is a conservative guess. I mean, that's certainly something, if you all want to certainly believe what's on there, and I have done that before, we could go with a higher number here. But I felt conservatism was the best path forward here. If we over-collect revenues, it merely goes into the unassigned fund balance, and then we deal with that however we deal with that. So just so you understand, if anybody had done any digging. That's why this number is not
So the state is
the same.
projecting 870, we've gone to 780.
Correct.
And maybe there's something in between that would be reasonable, or?
Unless they have,
Have
so the last 6 months of collections we've received from them have been significantly less than they were last year. Like
Okay.
to the tune of like 30 to 40%. So the fear is that that trend's gonna continue and their estimates won't have been updated in time for us to update this number here. If they were trending back upwards, then maybe we'd feel more comfortable doing that.
Because we have
but this is
400,000
Yeah.
received
Through December.
through December, so the first 6 months of this last year,
Yep.
which would
Right.
be 800,000.
Right. But like I said, they're continually between 30 and 40% less than we were last year for the last few months.
And I don't necessarily think there's a one-to-one correlation to this, but the sales in January, you know, regional sales were very, and this is a state number, that's not a reflection, but yeah, some of you may have
It's
seen.
like sales tax, is that?
Yes, yeah, your sales tax collections in January were bottoming out, and I think that's weather related, and obviously it's January in Maine, right? So, but if that's the case, it felt like put the brakes on, and maybe this is a place not to max out.
So we went up slightly from last year, but
Yep, slightly, yeah.
How much did we contribute to unassigned fund balance last year?
That's where I was going with it.
I don't think we're gonna end up contributing much.
Yeah. This number is gonna be driven based on overlay and what we are hoping will be a incredible, a lack of expected abatements from the revaluation, as opposed to using the contribution at the start of the fiscal year. This number is really driven by a lower than expected number of abatement requests coming off of a reval. So it's a lesser number, which we've talked a lot about this and trying to find a way to reduce the use of unassigned fund balance. And so, 320, of course, we could, if you use more, that certainly lessens the impact on the
But if
taxpayers.
we're only, if we're not contributing more to it from last year, then
Right.
we're gonna be knocking at it pretty good.
Right. We're gonna be
Even
taking
with
out of it.
320.
Yeah, we're gonna be, right, we'll be going at it from what we're putting in.
And more than likely, we're gonna be putting even less into it last year with a drop in health insurance, over budgeting.
Correct.
Yep.
So, it,
Right.
I don't know as we're wrong by doing 320 right now, but assuming
May
that we
not
still
wanna
have an
raise it.
adequate level in the balance,
We do.
but I just wanna keep it on the radar that
Yeah.
taking a big hit to our unassigned fund balance contributions year over year,
Yep.
taking a lot of that out of our health insurance costs, we're probably not gonna be putting in as much next year also.
Yeah.
we won't have
So
as
with
much
the
to use.
use of the 320, we're at 16.8%. And the goal is 20.
although the John Duke Select Board came up with 12%.
I don't
And
know
Jeff
who,
Parker.
I don't know who was on the select board, but it did used to be 12%, yes.
I don't think it was formally changed. I mean, I know, I talk about this every year, but I think we're in compliance with what the Rockport Select Board decided was the goal. I understand there's other accounting folks, and I'm not suggesting we go with a different number. It's just the 12% is what the last word of an older select board was 12%.
Much
was the
older,
target.
yes.
Getting older every day.
You may have already
Not
explained
getting
this,
any
but
younger.
on the,
Some of the day.
on the budget items, on the same revenues, I mean, we
Yep.
don't show it for this year, the blank spaces.
So like, homestead
Yes, yep.
reimbursement, Betty.
Yep.
So those are numbers that are figured as part of the tax commitment when the commitment's done. Because they are based solely on the values of properties.
Right.
So we can't budget for it during the budget process, but when the assessor does the tax commitment, he takes those revenues off
Okay,
what the
alright.
taxpayers have to pay.
Okay, all right.
Someday I'll tell you a story how a certain town manager double counted that number and screw up his But we won't go into that right now.
And you're still here.
Different town.
Different town.
Anyhow, anything else on special assessments? Because it's so special, we're, okay.
Moving right along.
Finance, 71.
Is this just Opera House, I mean, just finance or Opera House finance?
Just finance.
So we have a net number here of down negative 10.86%. Interest rates are obviously helping on the checking side a great deal. This is always, there's been discussions about this, you know, in recent years of where that stands and where that's going. I'm not someone who watches the Fed, you know, closely, so I lean on those who have better sense of those things, but, anyway, 175 was the number that we had pegged, on this number, for interest checking. Sorry to jump to revenues, but I was on that page, so that's why I went there.
And that is one of the questions we struggle with every year, is how much to
Yeah,
budget for interest received on our checking account.
but you know, yeah, anyway, we talked about it and that
Well, I don't
felt
think
like the same
inflation's
place.
gonna go down right away if oil's skyrocketing.
We have seen 3 rate reductions since July 1st,
Who was that checking account with?
the first.
The first?
All of our cash accounts are held with the first.
And I would say they are very customer focused in terms of informing us of upward movement of those rates. So they keep an eye on making sure they're checking us before we're checking them for our checking account.
Megan, up on top, 2540, the health insurance, what's driving the big increase there?
Employee election changes.
Okay,
Just
so
two employees, right?
Yep,
it's only 2 and it drove it that much?
yep.
There's a big difference between single and family.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what, but
Presumably.
it can be that kind of a,
Okay.
which is why
It just seemed disproportionate.
when we
that's
approve the
all.
new personnel policy, we will have incentives to have our employees select the single coverage, because it makes a huge difference to the town budget.
Meg, I noticed in your notes, you talked about possibility of hiring a new person depending on the cost of the invoicing from Maine Water.
So historically, there's been a lot of conversation about bringing more wastewater tasks in-house instead of contracting them out. Currently, Maine Water handles all of our wastewater billing, mainly because they do the water billing, so it's easy for them to take usage rates from the water side and move them to the sewer side, and they send our bills out. I just wanted to bring to the attention of if that is the direction that we go, and that's something that is meant to be brought back in-house, that we would have to hire staff to do that. We don't have enough capacity within the office to take on that task as
But
well.
have we done the comparison between what it would cost to have a full-time employee here versus?
It would be way more expensive.
To have a full-time employee?
Yes.
Why would we change that?
There have been problems with Maine Water and the billing process that has happened. We have entered an audit process to more regularly audit what they're billing customers. There was recently an abatement that came forward to the select board, where a couple had been significantly undercharged for a significant period of time, and then that eventually caught up to them, and they felt like they shouldn't pay what the amount was that they were actually supposed to be paying. So we have undertaken an audit process to try to weed out some of those issues. But really, I think the thinking of bringing it in-house is that there could be more consistency in the way that bills go out.
So
And
at
that would
this
be part of a
point-
wastewater, that would be in the wastewater budget, right, not the town budget?
It would be in the wastewater budget, but it would be an increase in overall staff to be able to do that.
But at this point, it's a thinking that there's nothing in this budget.
There's nothing in this budget, but if that's something that was decided,
We pay Maine Water 10,000 a year.
right, it's not a lot.
But if there is an increase in staffing due to wastewater, Megan, it just increases the allocation on the wastewater side, so it should have no effect on the town budget
Correct.
if we're doing it right.
Only those people have wastewater.
Wastewater.
Yeah, the wastewater people will be,
Again,
we'll see it in there, but that's another conversation.
I mean, my staff already, takes care of like the wastewater liens and the lien process for that, which is incredibly time consuming in itself because we don't do the billing through our system, so it's very manual to produce those liens. But in terms of like the actual billing and everything, that is done through Maine Water.
Which is a really good idea, and you should never change it. I mean, I interface with them quite a bit on the wastewater side, so I applaud your efforts to try and clean up the cha-cha between us and Maine Water, but they have the system down.
Yeah, and this was really something, it
Yeah.
was well water, so we had, and no meter on the well, and So it was using
It goes
formulas.
beyond that, just in terms of some of the confusion between the town, in terms of, there was, I don't want to go, we don't need to belabor it in this
It
meeting.
really isn't the town
But cleaning
budget,
it
so-
up would be, is great, thank you, but let them keep doing it.
So on the finance department wages, you're budgeting 228,000? And that's for 2 employees?
Correct.
Do we have a number year after year that we're increasing the percentage on the wages for town employees?
So we use, as a cost of living adjustment, we use the social security wage. So that increase of whatever that might be, I said on October 1st, this year, 2.8%. And then the only other adjustment would be a step increase based upon years of longevity. And so, that we mentioned that policy would change from 5 to 3% for that, those years.
But if somebody wasn't in that jump year, whatever you call it, so
They would just be
What would-
that
it would
number.
only be the 2.8.
only be the 2.7?
That's right.
Correct.
Yep.
So
2.8.
when we look in here, it looks like a 7%, that's because of the jump.
There's a
Yeah,
step
right, you
increase
get the
there.
steps hitting at the, not a good time for this budget. Yeah.
Do most other towns have that same provision?
I would say, yes, most towns do. The question is, are those employees unionized or not?
Yeah.
And that's part of this, I mean, it's part and parcel of every union contract you've ever seen. And the challenge of ensuring that non-union employees remain non-union employees is try to ensure that their benefits are similar and not so varied that they would say, oh, this would be better to be unionized than not, which then increases that administrative headache that we've been talking about a lot here tonight.
But I mean, the increases really don't reflect how good a job the employee is doing. In other
No,
words,
no.
No, it's not
Them
you
fair.
have
staying
some
not merit.
employees that deserve 3% increase, others that should get 10%. This, we
Absolutely.
have no way of rewarding anybody that's done a great job.
No, the only way that you reward them is that they aren't a problem and they remain on the job because they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
You know, and if they're not doing a good job, you're counseling through that to make them so they are doing a good job. And if the counseling doesn't work, then they're probably not long for staying employed.
Merit-based raises are not something that's commonly seen in municipal government because,
In any government.
right,
So there's no incentive to,
because you
do a great
can't,
job.
you can't make their
Steve knows
employment
better than
review
anyone
public.
in the schools. Schools don't do it, I mean, all the,
We have the exact same system, Midco Solid Waste, same thing.
So are these 2 employees here, are they 100% in this department? Or
Yes.
are they split anywhere else?
No,
Well, they are split, but that line is 100% of them, correct?
you mean because of the wastewater work they do?
Yeah, because we get reimbursed for wastewater
Right.
in the
You'll-
revenue.
In the revenue side here, you'll see Megan and,
from
Colleen.
wastewater and Mid-Coast Council of
But that
Governments.
is reflecting 100% of the
Of the
compensation.
pay?
Of the couple, yeah.
but like the stipend that's proposed for you to get for the EMS?
That's in EMA. It's, the EMA budget,
Right, but I mean, is that reflected in the,
no,
so that's on
it's
top
in
of
there,
this?
but that's it, yep.
Yeah.
It's the same for, Jason.
So there's almost $60,000 in revenue coming back to reflect Megan and Colleen's role in wastewater as well as McCog. I guess, Megan, you're just McCog, and then,
Correct.
yeah.
And then when I look at the staffing, it looks like we're flat from like 21 to this budget for 2 people. So when I look at like the total expenditures, and we go from like 172 to like 382, a difference of like 210,000, is there big changes that happened in those years that made that amount go up with one department?
The largest change to that is contracting our payroll processing. We used to use our financial software and process our own payroll in-house. Unfortunately, the software did not keep up with tax law appropriately, so we found ourselves in a little bit of hot water trying to like work through that process. So we still process all our time cards and everything in-house, and then I send a file and they file our taxes and stuff for us. So that was the biggest change in that time frame. We're still processing it all in-house. It's just the quarterly tax filings and the weekly tax payments they're taking care of.
And that raise is seen mostly in what line item?
3060 is where a big chunk of that is in purchase and contractual services.
I mean, most of it from, if you were talking the 171,
I'm talking about the 210,000 difference between back in '22.
We
And
also,
this one.
in 22, 23, Carrie and I used to share an assistant. And with the increases that were happening in the assessing office and regulatory changes that we had to make in the finance office, having one person for that position was not conducive. So Carrie and I, at that time, both ended up with our own assistants instead of sharing one.
So Megan, I've got
So you really compare the 303 to the 382.
So, 2 questions, Megan, and this is a theme that I've been on a little bit, but I asked Liz the other day about AI and thinking about technological solutions. And again, I'm a recent convert, and I know there's still questions about it, but I've been floored at what it can do, I mean, honestly. And I'm reasonably sure in another year it could generate this in probably 3 minutes. So, are you thinking about that? Is there training? Are you thinking about how processes inside
So-
your office can take advantage of some of these technological gains?
I've been testing it some because a lot of the work I do is very manual.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So like cash expectation reports, I've been trying to like import our expense and revenue reports and have it generate that report for me. So far, the results I have gotten are not
Okay.
all that accurate. I will continue to test it because the more of the stuff that I can do more automated instead of so manually, it would allow me to do things that, bigger picture things that I would like to be able to
Precisely what I
focus
was thinking.
on. But I don't have the time to because so much of what I do
Right.
is so manual.
Right. And again, and I asked Liz the same thing, there's trainings available and there's, okay.
There is.
Is there opportunities for you to meet with your colleagues just here in Knox County to talk about how you guys are, working on these things, tackling these together? And that goes to my second question, which is, again, I'm gonna continue to beat this regionalization drum. Whether there's discussions about a regional municipal services center that does payroll and HR for all of the towns in the county. And setting aside county government, I know that's another whole thing, but the idea that each of these little towns is doing its own payroll and its own accounting, its own budgeting, the duplication is staggering, frankly. And
So one of the things, like recently, for those that aren't hourly employees or don't have to deal with this, with the One Big Beautiful Bill, overtime expenses or overtime earned
Yeah.
became potentially deductible for some employees. However, the way that was described was that all overtime would be deductible. Well, it's not. It's the premium of overtime on FLSA required overtime that is eligible. So,
Just gonna take your word for that.
so all municipalities pay overtime that isn't necessarily required overtime. So like, we have employees come in and work Christmas Day.
Yeah.
We're paying them premium overtime for working Christmas Day. Well, it's still only the half of the time and the half that's eligible for the deduction. So it's not your double time that you're getting. It's the original half of it. Right, exactly. So we worked together to try to find a process that made this so employees would be able to deduct the correct portion of their overtime. So as laws like this change, we
Right.
do work together
Okay.
to try to make sure that we're all doing it in a similar
same way, yeah.
Right.
Right.
So we do have that.
Okay.
In addition to that, I serve on the Maine GFOA
Yep, I saw
board
that.
and also the New England GFOA board. And the New England GFOA board, more so than the Maine, is really focused on what AI services can do for
Okay.
municipal finance offices. Can it generate our financial reports for the auditor? Can it
right.
generate our CAFRs at the end of the year? Things like that would really lift up the overall tasks
Yep.
and free our time up to do maybe more important things than just paperwork that has to be
Yeah,
done.
that's right. That's exactly what I was getting at.
And jumping off of sort of that thought too, Steve, maybe I have high hopes, maybe I'm being a dewy-eyed dreamer on this, but we have, that's not the.
I'll take it.
We're not, yeah, right. I think I have real hope that the new superintendent coming in is somebody who is going to want to sit down and work together and sort of broaden the. So we talk about municipalities working together. The biggest budget we have, and as we all know, is the school budget. For those of you who don't know, they've had some considerable issues on the finance side of things. Right, yeah, I'm sure. You know, there was some issues in the winter where they literally had a spending freeze, not because they were short of funds or anyone was not contributing as they should, or the state hadn't done their part in providing their funding. It was literally because they couldn't process, they couldn't do AP. They couldn't process the actual invoices coming before them. I think that there's some collaboration that all of us can do. We know what treasure we have with Megan. I think that there's some things that they can do, and I think there's some collaboration there. So that's a way of sort of regionalization that's in a different way. There's a lot of communities when you have a town or a city school district where all of that is under one roof. Of course, here we have a school district that does their thing, and then we send out bills. But there's a way for us to do that together. I'd like to think the new superintendent will, as they're sort of organizing and managing that, might see some opportunities here to sit down with the two of us and try to find ways to do that better. So, again, that's a projection, and that's
Yeah.
something I think we can talk about, but I think those are the types of things that we need to do, because the amount of staff time and I appreciate the patience all of you have had in sort of making requests and it's a very difficult thing, but when, I crawl into that door and hey, Megan, and she's going through trying to figure out an overtime law, 6 months after the law passed and okay, now the rulemaking's done, but we're in December and we're gonna send out, or January, we gotta send out W-2s to all of our employees, who's in, who's out. That was a week to 10-day project for her to take on. And I appreciate your patience, I'm the board's patience in doing that, but those are the weird things that we're dealing with right now. And there may be, AI, maybe other ways of sort of getting around that, but those are the hurdles that, I see as someone who interfaces with Megan every single day. And, it's just a very frustrating part of the complexity of her job and how we are managing it, So anyway.
And the other thing I was trying to get at is, I don't want to make regionalization this big, huge thing, and I know we're talking about a task force and whatever. But there's also just you know, there's her talking to her colleagues, you talking to your colleagues,
Yep.
you guys talking to your colleagues.
Yep.
You know, I know Jason talks about talking to Rockland about,
Yeah.
and I know that you're, or I hope anyway, that you're encouraging your staff to work with their colleagues. It just, at some point, there's another level of that that's like, how about we'll do payroll for you guys and you
Exactly.
do this, you know,
Right.
and we figure out, we've got a really great payroll person. Why don't we do payroll for all these towns?
100%.
Because we've got a rock star payroll, whatever, I don't
Yeah,
even know.
that's
But
exactly what
we-
I'm
Right,
We gotta
and-
get
and
to
tax
some
bills.
other level here somehow.
Yeah, HR, I mean, there's a whole bunch
I mean,
of
it's
stuff.
just, it
I'm
doesn't
with you.
make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Look, the school district runs 5 different school districts.
Right,
I mean, it's insane
It is
for
insane.
these 5 towns, 5 distinct separate school districts. None of it makes any sense. But I would like, I just want us to exert leadership regionally on this issue.
no, I'm with you, absolutely, good stuff.
And I would say probably once or twice a week, my phone is ringing from somebody else in the county.
I'm sure it is.
That wants assistance on some new
Yeah.
process that they're doing or something. So I think that, especially here locally, we're very open in, hey, I have this problem, I don't know how to fix it, can you help me fix
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. The solution should be, how about we do it for you? You pay us, we'll put a staffer on and work you.
I know, I was just
We'll
thinking,
just
oh,
do it for
Megan's
you.
doing it for everyone now.
Exactly. I mean,
So Megan, I guess where I go with some of this is, where are we investing in you and your professional development in this budget?
So that's training and education, that's for both me and my assistant.
All right, what line are we on?
3920.
I'm sorry, what?
3920.
Mine has a hole through it.
It's the last one I purchased, the contractual.
Yeah,
If you don't have
what
holes.
does that get you?
The largest training expense that we have is for us both to attend the New England States Government Finance Office Association Conference in the fall. And it also allows us to take our required classes through the Maine Municipal Association to keep our certifications active.
Yeah, I'm kind of more interested in getting outside the bubble a little bit with you. You know, so that, I mean, all that's great. That's kind of ongoing certification stuff, but is it really helping you, think more broadly about, the kind of things you do every day, the decision-making you do, and make you more effective strategically? Those are the kind of professional development workshops that are not going to be at the conferences and that sort of thing.
No, honestly, the most beneficial thing I attend every year is the New England Government Finance Officers Conference. They do have a national one, which I have wanted to attend in the past. They are usually not close to Maine. They're anywhere from New Orleans to Texas to California, so they are fairly expensive
Well,
to attend.
to my mind, it's money well spent. And, I think you're worth the investment for the town. And I encourage you to look for some more opportunities. It may not be in this year's budget, but next year's budget. I don't think there'd be many people disagreeing with that.
I think Clay would love to go with you too. To that conference.
It
sounds like a
party.
It sounds like a hoot to me.
Then I could pick your brain on how to run the Opera House also.
Megan, on the investments, which is part of your department, who now is in charge of making decisions on how the different funds that we have established?
The
are
first
invested?
manages that within our investment policy.
Well, who does overlooking what the first does?
I do all the initial stuff, and then the board gets the quarterly report with where our investments stand.
And that report is available to anyone who wants to look at what we're making on our investments?
Yep, and I think that I've sent the last few ones to you guys too.
Say again?
I think I've sent them to the budget committee as well, and I've sent
Just
them to the
the
select board.
general quarterly
Yep,
report. yeah.
the investments are
Showing
the
where
second part of
investments
that.
are.
Don't we
Yep.
have an investment committee anymore? We used to.
No, we
I used
used
to be on it.
I was vice chair for 8 years.
I was on it with you.
Yeah,
When did that disappear?
a few years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, we made some big decisions about changing where we invested at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going from Bar Harbor
To the first.
to the first.
So there's two investment, buckets, I'll call them, that I report on. It's our investments with the first, which is wastewater, cemeteries, and public assistance. And then, the library committee has an investment that they manage through Charles Schwab, which is, the endowment for the library. So both of those are reported in that packet,
And then the Weidman Fund.
which is the general assistance one. So it's cemeteries, general assistance, which is the Weidman, and then wastewater.
Anything else on finance? And I haven't mentioned it, but in terms of the pulling out items, nothing really has come up tonight, I know, I just wanted to mention that, but,
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the mowing for
Yeah.
buildings and grounds is
yeah, I
a
just.
big pullout.
We were sort of, items that were sort of, make sure you wanna cover them when you have the budget committee meeting or the select board, so, yeah, okay. But nothing here that I heard. Okay, so, other public safety services, page 127.
This is a very exciting category.
Thrilling, really. A lot of streetlights, a lot of traffic
Fire
signals.
hydrants.
So the fire protection, the hydrant, it's main water.
Yeah.
Yep.
They charge us for that.
So we're up 2.6% here overall, net.
Hydrants are up. Any questions? Okay, let's move on.
189, this is town office building. Net change here of 10%. We have a reduction on use of computer reserve. This is just a lesser amount that we're using, buying computers for, we have sort of peaks and valleys in our computer purchases, so we're using less reserve because we're spending less, therefore.
Is that a typo in the postage line? 5415 year-to-date?
So the year-to-date number is high because when we pay the bill, we charge it to one account. At the end of the year, I run a report through the postage meter that tells me how much each department spent on postage, and then I break it out at the end of the
Okay,
year.
thanks.
Yeah, we're over budget.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit,
Little bit.
yeah. The forever stamps just aren't what they say they were. The biggest change here overall on the expenditure side is the building improvements reserve.
So
So that's capital item 7205, increase from 30,000 to 50,000 for that year. And that's really a reflection of some of the reports that we received last fall and potential capital needs at the town office.
Warm my heart to see the electricity cost drop.
I like to see that too, the
Yeah,
solar
oh, right.
panels.
Thank you, yes. So last year, we discussed the solar panels and the purchase of those. Yeah, that took a lot longer than it should have. But anyway, we were able to complete that purchase, and to Bill's point, we're on a much happier note on the electricity
Yeah, why
line.
not?
So
Not a lot, but
Many thanks.
It's progress.
progress sometimes is slow, but it's progress nevertheless. Yeah.
And we might be able to reduce it going forward, but we hadn't been through a full winter yet, so I was afraid to reduce it.
It snowed a lot this year, no worries.
Have we ever considered buying a share in solar farms
As a town?
as a town?
you've been getting those postcards in the mail?
No, I own shares in one, up in Vassalboro, but, you know, I've found it to be a really good investment, but if we need additional credit, I don't know, where are we on that, Megan?
In terms of what?
Our electrical usage versus what the panels are generating?
Well, if we split the electricity number in half, 5,000 versus 812. It's covering the bulk of our electricity.
So currently we don't need it, is what you're saying?
right? Our panels are covering
So we reduce
the
it,
majority.
we reduce it next year by $7,500?
And you might be able to go more, but we'll try this first year
Yeah.
and see.
Right, like I said,
It's,
once we have a full 12 months, it'll be easier to determine what that ongoing expense.
Well,
trying to be
it might be an
conservative.
option to look at, because you don't, you can buy basically as much as you need to offset.
Well, we did, last year we had some items that we weren't going to adjust in terms of this year's budget, but things that we wanted people to be looking at to look for future savings. So that could be something, John, maybe you
Yeah,
look into.
it doesn't sound like it'd be that big of an issue for us, but,
Well, just.
Well, we have
this
a
one
lot
Well,
of
we
part
have
that, I mean, you
electricity in other buildings.
Right.
oh, okay, so what is this electricity?
This is the
Just-
town office building.
Just the town office? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, well then definitely look at it. I mean, it's kind of what the Snow Bowl is going through this very same conversation. They like, just have massive amounts of electricity to power that equipment.
Yeah, let's just
makes
put that
sense.
on a list of things to look at for next year.
So you mentioned that 7205, the 50,000 you put in reserve.
That's
It
right.
says we have several large building expenses coming up. Did you already say what those were or not?
Well, it's really related to the study that was done of where is that building, what's the future of that building moving forward?
We're talking the Maple Street.
Town office building.
Yeah, the Maple, I mean, what was that capital improvement, the plan that was.
Right.
That's
they were
right,
so low.
that's right.
Maple Street Designs.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Don't
So,
look at me like that.
well, I was on Maple Street, I was like, we don't have property on Maple Street, that's where Bill
I
is.
know what you're talking about.
Put that roof on his house.
That's
No.
who did the study, is that it?
That's who did the study, sorry, yeah, and it's in a capital improvement plan. The concern is, and many of you were here in that room when we talked about that, but the concern is that if there are some sizable issues that could occur, and if this building, for example, we sort of had this conversation earlier, but if this building were no longer available to the town to meet in, then what do we do? And so trying to have some little bit of a step towards wherever that solution could be. That's a building, it's 25 years old, and we have, as others have said, we've maxed out sort of the office space available in there. So where that goes, but there's, other than this revenue or this reserve amount, there's no other, capital, expenditure. for
Where
that.
do we stand on voting? Is the library okay with the
Li-
state and
Yep,
we're good to
library's
go?
fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
that was a whole, okay. Apparently, I got my wires crossed on that. So I was under the impression it was the Secretary of State's office that had informed our office that there was an issue. It was not the Secretary of State's office that it was an issue with voting. It was actually, I believe it was League of Women Voters. But don't hold it against me, League of Women Voters, if that was the case. But it was an outside advocacy
Oh,
of
who
voting
didn't
rights.
approve of how we were.
Yes, and so it
Okay.
ended up going back to the Secretary of State's office and said, no, we've inspected the space, it is acceptable for voting,
So we don't have to come up with another
No.
voting venue.
No,
Great.
there were plans that had been raised from the Secretary of State's office, per Liz, that at some point there would be, that they would explore the idea of a state holiday on election days and using schools because they have better accessibility.
Better parking.
Yeah, for that sort of, that hasn't gone anywhere, but just in terms of, so you know what some of the hubbub and chatter is on that front.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no,
But we're
thanks for
good to go
asking.
with the library on that. So the town office building, it has to do with meeting space, has,
Yeah, from the capital plan, yes.
yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, just, we've got this 50,000, we're adding to the reserve,
right.
which is
John,
potentially
you
in
are aware of
anticipation.
those white trailers you can rent?
Yes, that, at
Just make
one
sure.
point, probably, how long have you been in town, Bill? What years?
32 years.
Okay, 32, so you probably remember when we had the trailers out behind of, yes. So, that's something the town's used before, and that may be, option, to look at, yeah.
I'm sure Maple Street didn't recommend it.
Maybe, no, but, it's not a long-term solution either, but, and I think we had them probably a total of 5-6 years until the town office building was constructed. It gets you through,
Yep.
absolutely.
Anything else on the town office building? Any concerns with that? Okay.
All right, town manager, page 45. So the town manager's net budget is an increase of 3%. You have expenditures of 2.7. We've increased our employee safety and performance budget for this coming year. We have, so those of you who don't know, we're part of the SHAPE program, which is a state program through the Bureau of Labor Standards. Effectively, it allows you to go through an enhanced workplace safety program. The best part of it is then turns into reduced rates for our, our workers' comp and those types of needs. But also, the best part of it from the municipal employee side is that it's a very forward-facing process, as opposed to they show up and knock on your door and say, show me all your records. You know when they're coming, and you've actually gone through, an extensive process to ensure that all your bloodborne pathogens, your employees know how to handle bloodborne pathogens or video data terminals and the like. This is our year to go back through that process. So we are, we got a 2-year renewal the last time. They're back. We'll look forward to them coming by and looking through all our middle envelopes that have all that safety records. So I get all of the safety work in my department, but it's every department that is covered by this. So
Is it training or an audit?
it's an audit, but we have to conduct the training to ensure the audit is successful.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, let's see here. Computer repairs and maintenance. Unfortunately, they're not becoming less problematic. And the other thing that often happens is that when everyone comes by and stops by to see Diane for an issue with connecting to their laptop or what have you, it ends up in the town manager's line. So I'm glad to assist anybody who can't get into their email or have you for the committees and all that goes, but that's something that ends up in this budget. So we had to increase that number up to 4,000.
John, what is professional fees?
Professional fees.
$30.95.
$10,000?
That's for the HR consultant.
Oh, and that's in the current
Oh,
year too?
yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, and we've used 3,600 of it. We pay on an hourly basis. If we don't use it, we don't spend it with her. It's not a retainer of any sort.
Yeah.
It's been wildly successful and beneficial for our department heads and really has helped to embolden them in working with our employees and deal with worker issues and HR issues. And it's been a really big success. It was something that we started, I think we put in the budget for the first time 4 years ago or so. And I'm really happy with where we've gone with it. And the fact the amount hasn't.
Yeah,
been blown out of sight.
$10,000 for HR consulting fees is
Yeah.
way better than having an internal HR
And the
person.
other part of it that should go unsaid is traditionally those were calls that were going to our law firm and our labor attorney. So now not only am I paying a lesser amount per hour, which is not part of our the amount that we pay Bernstein and Schur, but I'm doing it at a far lesser rate. So I'm getting good advice, and there's times you have to tag team on this where they both are HR person and labor attorney are involved, but by and large, it cuts down our legal costs as well. So very happy with it.
So same question I had with Megan's budget, training and education, $1,000.
Doesn't go very far, does it, John?
No, and I'm just curious, it hasn't been any money there
Yeah.
for quite a few years. What do you do to get outside the bubble, John? Where do you go for training, and what examples are there? I'm curious.
That's a good question. We talked about this last fall, right?
Yeah, and I don't see anything moving here.
No. I was ready to go on to the national conference, the ICMA national conference, last fall in Florida. It was in Tampa. It was 3-4 days, and I honestly didn't feel like I could get away. to be honest with you. I was ready to sign up for it at the end of September, and I felt like I was needed here. I felt like I was needed to be part of conversations to deal with our capital plan, to get all our department heads in place, so all the work was before Megan, so she could get a report out to all of you and we could talk about it. That was primary on my mind right now. It wasn't my own professional development, my own, needed to get out. I was very much focused on trying to make sure that tonight and the 2 nights before that and next Monday were as successful as they could be. Because this is where it all begins and ends for me, is that. And so, is it short-sighted? Absolutely it is. And I don't take away from what you said, but in the fall, but I think it's important that I'm here to support the board and support the budget committee and what they're doing. If we're at a critical juncture, and I felt like we were at a pretty critical juncture as two groups really trying to find their way and work together to get into a place where we could get to tonight. And it felt really very much on the front of mind. And I felt like I could go to, at a national conference and know that I'm not getting back to an email. I've already got I got 2 emails I got to get back to Steve on. Craig's got an email. No, but it's important to me. And I hope you all appreciate that. I'm really here to make sure you guys are part of a process here. And there's times when that's important and comes front of mind for me. Because I do, I think you all tell, I wear this job I was like, heart on a sleeve. And so sometimes that pushes those types of things back, John. And it's probably my biggest detriment right now is not pushing that forward. And so, yeah, I kept it at $1,000 because I said, geez, I don't know what next fall is gonna bring us. But I think it's important, and I don't disagree with what I said last fall either.
All right, well,
I do need to get away, but
I appreciate the noble gesture.
Well, how much would
But,
you budget if
John,
you
the
were
other-
gonna go to that conference?
Oh, probably, I think probably 2,500. It would just be me, so, it's flight and then the stay, but
Right, but
yeah.
and I'll let that reason come in 1 year.
Yeah,
This is the year.
yeah, okay.
That's it. You
Well,
used it up.
I got you. Fair enough.
Well,
Fair enough.
I mean,
Because you've got, but John, and I'll let Steve take it from here. You've got 3-4 years of
Absolutely.
not wanting to get away, and that's
Absolutely.
an issue
It is.
of time management, and you're hurting yourself and you're hurting the town when you're not getting a grip on that. I'll
Yeah.
just leave it there.
That's
And
not,
you did go to
that's
the
fair.
AI conference.
Yeah, I did. And I would say this, I felt like walking in the door here, that there was a lot that needed to be fixed. And I do feel,
Not
don't
walking
take
into
this
the
wrong,
right
budget
walking
committee,
into
don't take this wrong. But if we had a different process, I might have said, okay, I'm at the point where our department heads are in a great place, we've got great people in place, we can step away from it. But, last year, we were all sort of talking, and there was a lot of new folks and trying to incorporate. I grant you what you're saying, and so, as long as we know the world doesn't blow up here in the fall, then you won't see me for a few days in October.
I've heard myself say the exact same
pledge it.
things, John, in over my career.
no, that's
And I learned the hard way that you just have to get out.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Well, and the only thing I would add is, look, we've all been to conferences that we're like, well, that wasn't really worth the trip down here. So I don't
Yes.
want to speak on behalf of the select board, but, that development needs to take place in the context of what are you trying to do? What's your role? What do you need to improve on? It may be that going to a conference is the thing to do. It may be that it's executive coaching. It may be, there's a lot of other ways that you can be developed as a leader and a manager. And so
appreciate that.
I'm hoping that the board, as they're working with you on that,
Yeah.
and the rest, and the senior team too. Like we're not doing very much to develop our folks here.
It's true.
And, we got to talk about that. And I think we should have a much more comprehensive sort of performance management system. We've talked about that. These goals that are in here aren't particularly useful. You can't really coach people on your teams against these goals that are in here because they're not really goals to
Yeah.
speak of. So,
That's fair.
we should think about, and here I am going to propose spending some money here, but it's, investing in people in
You
a,
got it on tape.
yeah, but investing in a strategic way. It's
Yeah.
not about just sending people to conferences. And
Yeah.
sometimes conferences are great, and you're like, wow, that
Right.
was game-changing, and a lot of times they're not. So
Yeah.
it really is about what do we need from this person, yourself included?
Hmm.
And where are their gaps, frankly, and how can we continue to develop them? And it might involve conferences, or it might be more than that. And it
Yep.
might be $2,500, or it might be $25,000.
Yep.
So, you gotta, that's part of how you have to tackle that.
I appreciate
Because
that.
you burn through people and,
Yeah.
you gotta invest in people, but you gotta know who to invest in, and that's why you need the performance management piece. That's a
Right.
component of that.
Thank you, both you guys, on that. And I think, and this is sort of what happens, right? And for those of you who were here last year and those new, this is what happens. We have this conversation, and I guarantee you, when we come back next year, there'll be a different, okay, this is how we're gonna tackle this issue. So, really good food for thought on this, and if there's more, or you have ideas, send them my way. I mean, I am, we want to make this better, right? And so, anyway, thank you. Yeah.
Excise taxes still, still are formed by the state. Having a throat problem here.
It's okay. It gets
excise-
us all choked up, I know.
I'm not choked up. The excise tax is still set by the
Yeah.
state.
Yeah, in terms of their, right, the mill rate for all those.
We get the money, but they set the,
Right. And the idea, of course, is for the excise tax is really meant to go from, as soon as it's in the drawer, and really be dedicated towards road repair and replacement. Yep.
Let's get these notary fees up, get that
I
revenue.
know, $15. I think that was all mine.
Yeah, we'll do better.
Okay.
Sorry.
Get the
John, I don't
advertising in
remember,
there.
I remember we had a discussion about your contingency fund, your kind of walking
Yep.
around money last
Yep.
year. You had goals for it, I don't remember what they were, so I don't know whether to ask you whether you
Spend it on a
achieved.
conference that I didn't go to. That was what I was gonna do with it.
That's what that was.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
well,
that,
I mean, it
yeah.
could be anything.
Right.
And like, we've used it for match of a grant, we've done different things, but
Okay.
that's usually where it ends up, is, oh my goodness, we didn't have any place for this.
Got it, okay. So it's a
Yeah.
catch-all.
It is a catch-all, yeah.
I think didn't you last year you say it was gonna be used for you thought you might have to use some for
We
public
used
safety
it for
building,
the
right?
Maple
Mm-hmm.
Street.
Yeah.
That's what it
Assessment.
was.
Yes,
That's right.
that's right.
That's what it was.
But the amount, yeah. But this year, so we have, we haven't touched it.
No.
Yeah, we haven't touched it this year, and that
20
was where I was
bands
gonna
burning
use.
a hole in your pocket.
No, no, gosh, no. Might even go to fund balance.
Yeah, now I know you're lying.
Trying to get to your heart, that's all.
Anything else on John's budget?
I had a question.
Yeah.
So, like, you have all the other employees, select board, really you are their employee. Are you currently under a contract
Yep.
with the select board?
Yeah.
And then how does it work? Like, we've been seeing the cost of living in the step. How does that work with you? Does that mirror the same, or is it different?
Yeah, so my agreement, so right near, it's a 3-year agreement, right, that's right, 3-year agreement. And so it's negotiated between myself and the board. I'm the only one really on a contract basis, which is usually the way most town managers are with a community like that. There are differences between my agreement and other employees. For example, I don't receive health insurance from the town, but instead it becomes a stipend that I use towards offsetting what I pay towards my wife's insurance, because I'm on her insurance, although she's a teacher, so I end up paying anyway. We all know how that goes. Yeah, what other changes are in there?
So the select
Yeah.
board with your contract, when your number differs or changes year to year,
Mm-hmm.
that is informed to them? Or is it built?
Well, the
into
contract
book?
builds in what the salary is each
percentage
year.
increase each year.
Yeah, you're
That
right.
would be,
Yeah,
What's
so
the-
John doesn't just decide his salary and
No.
then says,
Right.
P.S. I've,
What is the increase each year, Denise?
His contract is written so that it's the same as the employees, so.
his employees. so
If
the
employees
step.
receive a cost of living adjustment, he receives the
The
same cost of living
2.8%.
adjustment. If he's due for a step increase based on his years, then he gets the same step increase. non-union employees would get.
Where's the first step increase?
It's 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, every 3 years after that.
And the last thing you want to do if you're a town manager is have something that's radically different than the rest of your employees, because what sort of message does that send? There are certainly things that are building blocks that are sort of like obvious that you would want, they're a little different, but by and large, you want to mirror the same holidays, same, you know, maybe it's a different accrual of vacation time perhaps, but by and large, it's pretty much similar, or it should be similar, to try to be that way. So, but, yeah. That's about it.
Anything else? Jones? Any concerns, things that we want to set aside from this department for the future discussion? Okay. Sanitation, page 173.
So this is up a net of 0.3%. Obviously, the biggest lift here is the Midco Solid Waste Assessment.
And that we're just, we have no control over that, right? That's, other than Bill has control
Other
over
than Bill
it.
and Michael are gonna give us a treatise on.
But it didn't
solid
go up
waste.
almost, I mean,
No,
0.3%.
philosophically, the Midco Solid Waste, so there's a certain revenue stream and revenue stream that comes from the bags and the dumping of the C&D waste, et cetera. That does fluctuate from year to year. There has been a philosophical desire to keep the total assessment from the 4 towns flat. So the only change actually in ours is not for the total assessment for the 4 towns, that stayed flat, but there are calculations based on real estate value, population, et cetera, that cause it to fluctuate a little bit from year to year. So literally, this fluctuation is just mathematics because of the way the total is calculated. But there's been like I said, philosophical desire to keep that total flat from year to year to year. We are creeping on our own budget at Midco Solid Waste toward that maybe not being enough, but we can still hold out another year. That's a whole different issue. That's also a town engineering type discussion, because we not only have the operation of the transfer station that we have to deal with, we've also got a landfill out there that's gonna have long-term closure obligations and long-term operating maintenance obligations that are gonna go on forever. And that cost is currently being evaluated by our engineering group that's subcontracted. So we know that we're accruing enough money to cover the closure and then the long-term care. Because that landfill's got anywhere between 5 and 10 or 15 years in it, and that's a big swing, but nobody knows at the moment. Anyway, so that's a bigger issue that we're wrestling with, but the town assessment, there's been no intent to change that for a few years.
And the payment in lieu of taxes, is that just because it's on Rockport land?
Yeah, there had been traditionally an agreement where, they would provide that payment as part of the budget, well, in the budget. So we pay in one and receive in another. But
And our part of that bill is a combination of the valuation and the population.
Yeah.
So, and then somewhere in there is a combined percentage. It's a very odd way to.
Well, it's the way
calculate
that you think about it. It's Hope, Lincolnville,
It's what?
Hope, Lincolnville, Camden, and Rockport.
Yeah.
So the question is, who's using it the most? I don't know. I mean, this goes back years in terms of how that was originally.
I mean, you have to come up
calculated.
with something, and that doesn't seem unreasonable, but it's kind of an odd way to come to a
I don't
percentage.
know. I
Yeah, if your
wasn't in the
houses
meeting,
go up more in
John.
value, then you are gonna
Well,
see
no,
more
what it does
withdrawal.
is it takes your percent of valuation, adds your percent of population,
Right.
and then takes the average of those two percentages. And that's
Well,
how that's how they.
Base
arrive.
8's like base 10 if you're missing 2 fingers. I have
I don't
no
know.
idea.
I know, it's the kind of thing.
Probably was the end of a long meeting, and I was like, you know what, we'll just average them, can we just go
Yeah,
home?
yeah.
It's
I
probably
mean,
one of those. would be
It's the
my
kind
guess.
of thing that must drive Megan nuts when she sees it, but whatever.
Well, that might be it.
But we get, just so for the record, our percent of the pie is 29.54%.
Which is also the same percentage that Rockport has in deciding how the corporation works. So that's their vote
That's our
share.
voting.
So they have 14 point whatever % each. Look at you.
It'd be nice to us.
That's right, a lot of power.
I'd like to see
14%, that's the.
The payment in lieu of taxes could go
Yeah,
up.
it is functioning up there, it's functioning well. I don't have a big concern with how we're floating until we get closure costs and think, are we on the money or are we in trouble?
It's not a bad formula.
Tell you
Thanks for
next
doing
year.
that.
It's pretty ingenious. Because Hope has a higher, getting a deal. 'cause
So
the
that
valuation's
is the
30%.
end of our
Average is 10,
night.
But the valuation's so low compared to the other two. So
We're
actually,
done
it's
for the
not
rest
bad.
of the week. We actually have several days off from having to see each other. Monday, we'll be back. EMS, fire, EMA, West Rockport Fire Station, recreation, and then county schools, and then closing remarks and whatever's next. As
Closing
we're-
remarks at 8 o'clock.
Yep,
You're funny.
8 till 9. And then Wednesday.
He's
the
gonna filibuster.
Budget committee until Wednesday.
Yeah. You start when I was a child.
That's right. Exactly. First a reading, no. Anyway, thank you all. Appreciate your hard work tonight. And as I said, if there's any other thoughts or questions, I said it earlier, but if there are things that, particular details or whatnot, the goal is to try to get that all somewhat organized. So that way, by Wednesday's meeting, everyone can sort of look over that. So that way, the budget committee has what they need to weigh in and select board and so forth. And then, obviously, there'll be recommendations, and then the board will meet, select board will meet, make their votes. Budget committee does their up or down, and then, holy cow, it's almost over.
So-
Can you believe it?
So can we walk through how that's gonna work, so that we're gonna finish up these group meetings,
Yep.
then our expectation is the budget committee will meet and come back to us with come back to the select board with some recommendations?
Right, yes, right, so they'll do their review, the few that have, items that have been highlighted, and then usually there's a list of recommendations of potential changes to the budget.
Yeah.
And then that list effectively would be brought on the select board meeting on Monday, the 30th, I think.
That's correct.
And then, obviously, any other changes the board might want to make that night. The challenge, of course, is that if there's changes that the board makes that the budget committee isn't aware of, then obviously that
Yeah,
impacts.
that's where I think
It gets a little squirrely.
Gets squirrely, which,
Yeah.
I've kind of felt that from the very beginning about some of this, that I would love to see a little more, if there are significant changes in either way, that we allow some time to have everybody check in on that, and
I know Kim was concerned about the raising the sidewalk out here and had talked with some of us
Yeah.
about that cost. Is that really the right thing to do on our road? I mean, that's, because the sooner if we all think that that should go away, the better. We just take it out. Make sure there's a paint budget, because we need a bunch of paint, but
Well-
otherwise.
25,000 for, and we've got the VPI.
Yeah,
that's
we've got a
still up
different
in
way
the
we're
air.
looking at
Why
all
are we gonna
this.
spend 25,000 to raise a sidewalk? Then we come along and do the VPI, and that raised, sorry, not crosswalk, that raised crosswalk is not in the plan, and then it goes away. We've wasted $25,000. I understand the safety thing. We can do some minor stuff as a stopgap
Yeah.
to make it a little safer for that crosswalk, but I think we'd be throwing that money away at this point in this budget.
Anybody disagree with taking that out?
I wouldn't die on the hill. I would like the crosswalk, but
Well, I think it needs to be
definitely
painted
raised,
and,
yeah, I think,
okay.
But
I think if it's
That's me.
painted.
And I'm not
like I
trying
mentioned
to-
the other
well,
night,
it's painted every
yeah.
year.
Well,
Right.
there is a process, so I don't want
Yeah,
to
what-
upend the process. I just thought if that's something everybody would agree on, then we could,
well, I think you're sort of touching on where I would look to go, which is maybe before we all disperse at the last meeting, take a moment to say, are there a couple things that we can both agree on right now, so that we're not wasting each other's time in the next round of whatever we do? Like,
Yeah.
if we all agree that sidewalk not gonna happen, great,
Crosswalk,
cross it off.
crosswalk.
What about at the end of the last meeting, the select board tells us what they wanna nix right out of the gates? And then, I mean, someone's gotta go first on the in-depth modifications.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
there may be, it might just be a conversation that we all kind of, it all bubbles up to the same conclusion, which is typically what I usually see when you have good people getting together and having all the facts in front of them, that usually not a lot of there to disagree on things. So, and then we can focus on the one or two that maybe could be significant, I don't know. But
Yeah.
I just like the idea of taking a moment, while we've got everybody in the room together,
right.
before we go
Before
off
we
and
have our separate meeting.
do any separate meetings.
I would think we'd wanna leave some money there to do something. But maybe not the full bump, but
Okay,
like widen the view angle so that
Right.
parking spots move back, and that stuff would cost money for.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's right in the VPI plan too.
yeah, there is
Yeah,
already a
there is
proposal
VPI
in
plan
there,
on the sidewalk,
and that
on
might be
crosswalk
priced,
there.
yeah.
That's
Okay,
Laser lights,
There's no question that is going to be a very unpopular thing for motorists.
yeah.
and
You're
snowplow
not gonna win
drivers.
that battle. I think pedestrians would like it more, but.
Yeah, and you have things like Camden where it's, stop, wave,
Yeah.
walk, where you
Right.
don't just get to barge out into the road, you've got to make sure the drivers see you. and-
I
Anyway,
would say I was also pleasantly, in my case, surprised to see it in the budget because it's not part of, it's, the VPI stuff's coming down the pipe. but-
yeah,
Yeah,
I think that
I mean,
makes,
I'm all for safety.
Sure.
You're not gonna
Yeah.
get me there, but I think, anyway, we can
Well,
discuss
I
that, but
think
it's,
I sense I'm not gonna win this battle anyway, and I'm certainly not gonna die on that.
you might have something else you can get
Well,
on.
All
I mean-
sequel, I'd rather have it.
What's it worth to you? is the question. And if we're gonna wheel and deal, let's wheel and deal here. I got some ideas of my own.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy travels, Bill.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, safe travels.
Flying